No. How many people in the world have had their ear nuzzled by a pangolin? I feel lucky and I feel special. From when I was a very young child, I have always been interested in animals. So it wasn't very surprising that I became a veterinarian because I wanted to help animals. Also, I'm a wildlife conservationist. I rescue wildlife, rehabilitate, and release back to nature. And process of growing up, I have come to realize that we have this very, very horrific attitude to the animals around us. Every animal is bushmeat. So instead of complaining about the situation, I wanted to try to cause a difference. And what better place to go to see these victims of the wildlife trade than the bushmeat market? The first time I visited the bushmeat market, nothing prepared me for what I saw. Table full of animals, different species that I didn't know we had in Nigeria, species that I had not seen alive. To see them dead on the table, it was a horrible experience, and I would always remember it till today. It breaks me every time seeing them like this and the horrible way they died. This guy is just beginning to start his life. He has a long way to go. In going to the bushmeat market, I realized that you see some live animals that can be rescued. When I started, I did not discriminate. Any animal in need, I get. But along the line, in one of my visits, I came across a strange creature. From the description of it, I quickly checked online and, whoa, pangolins. You mean we have pangolins here in Nigeria? I didn't know. The day I saw my first pangolin, I knew I was sold. And then by the time I got to know their status as threatened with extinction, I knew that something would have to be done to ensure that these lovely creatures do not go extinct in my time. Once you see a pangolin and you look into the eyes of a pangolin, you are caught up in pangolins. So how do you look into these eyes and turn your back on him? A lot of people do not know about pangolins, but it is the most widely traded mammal. Because of the interest in the pangolin for their scales, you have hunters that go into the bush exclusively for pangolins, to look for pangolins. So right now on the bushmeat table, you get average of 7, 9 pangolins every day. And that's what you see on the table. They are traded openly despite their CITES 1 protection level. The law enforcement do not even know about it, and this thing continues unabated. Convincing the bushmeat sellers, the hunters, the traders to let go is not a very easy thing, because once they have this animal, all they think of is money. Sadly, once in a while, it comes to that, especially when I see an animal and I say, look, I am going with this animal, I do whatever it takes. Okay, so adult female, 1.784. Adult male, about a year old. 1 inch gash on the right side of the head. One thing I found about the pangolin is a paucity of information. Very little on the white-bellied pangolin that we have here in Nigeria. So it has had to be more like learning on the job, trial by error. It's been very, very traumatic. I have come to learn that they don't do very well in captivity. When you get them, you rehabilitate, rehydrate, but you want to release as soon as possible. Lufasi is a protected park, and they have graciously granted me space. So what I did was to fence a portion of nature with the trees, anthills, good feeding sites for pangolins. So what we do is, after rescue or rehabilitation in the hospital, we bring to the rehab center and then we release them there. And it's actually the first of its kind in West Africa. And we're very proud to be at the forefront of pangolin rescue and rehabilitation in West Africa. Now, Sharon, I want to ask you something. What is the pangolin covered with?
Pangolins are covered with scales.
Yes.
And the scales are like the fingernails in our hands.
Some people believe that when they eat the scales, it will heal them and get them well. Do you think it makes sense?
No.
If somebody is sick and they eat the fingernails, do you think they'll get well?
No.
Why? It doesn't make sense, right?
Yes.
The most exciting thing for me in my rescue work is the point of release. It is almost spiritual for me. You get this heightened sense of accomplishment. You have assisted nature. You have taken something that was supposed to die due to the destructive activities of man, and you have successfully released back into nature. I might not be able to save all the animals in the world, but for this animal that I have saved and released back to the wild, it's the world to the animal. There's a tradition, a culture in Nigeria that refers to pangolins as idiots. They are not idiots. If only people knew how wise these guys are. One of the challenges is ignorance. People have the wrong information, misinformation. And what I have come to do is education. If we don't take care of these guys and they go extinct, the ant population is going to explode. One very, very interesting part of my work is what I'll call the pangolin orphanage. Lots of these pangolins, the females, they give birth in captivity. And at this point, they are usually very stressed, very weak. They usually don't make it. But these babies that are born, they are practically useless to the bushmeat sellers. So I have come to an arrangement with them. Whenever they have a newborn, they call me. Their reproduction rate is very, very slow. You get one pangolin pup being born every 18 months. The rate of removal is way higher than the rate of replacement. We have a very short window to fight this decline of pangolins. If we do not conserve our natural resources, if we do not save these animals around us, it's humanity that will suffer. When you save these animals, you're actually saving humanity. If we kill off all these animals, it will just be you and I looking at our ugly faces. It's not palatable.
Western Spring Television, ours it is.
Hello again. Thank you for joining this new episode of The Bookshelf, beaming live from the state-of-the-art studios of Western Spring Television. My name is Damilola Raphael, your teaching and learning advocate. While getting my papers ready for this broadcast, I wanted to show off my progress with this year's theme, or better still, mandate of learning a new language. Hold on a moment. How many days to the end of the year? Let's zoom closer. How many days to your next birthday? So help you God if tomorrow is your next birthday. Now, gift yourself a new language on my behalf, will you? Let's go back to my preparation. So, I really wanted to say fresh episode in Spanish. Now, on its own, fresh is fresco in Spanish. And depending on context, your modifier will have to adapt. What do I mean? Fresh is more an adjective than an adverb. I'll use the first half of today's telecast to shed some light on adjectives with lots of help from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. An adjective is a word belonging to one of the major form classes in any of numerous languages and typically serving as a modifier of a noun to denote a quality of the thing named, to indicate its quantity or extent, or to specify a thing as distinct from something else. Adjectives describe or modify, that is, the limit or restrict the meaning of nouns and proverbs. They may name qualities of all kinds: huge, red, angry, tremendous, unique, rare, etc. An adjective usually comes right before a noun. A red dress, 15 people. When an adjective follows a linking verb such as be or seem, it is called a predicate adjective. That building is huge. The workers seem happy. Most adjectives can be used as predicate adjectives, although some are always used before a noun. Similarly, a few adjectives can only be used as predicate adjectives and are never used before a noun. Some adjectives describe qualities that can exist in different amounts or degrees. To do this, the adjective will either change in form, usually by adding er or est, or will be used with words like more, most, very, slightly, etc. For instance, the older girls, the longest day of the year, a very strong feeling, more expensive than that one, etc. Other adjectives describe qualities that do not vary: nuclear energy, a medical doctor, and they also do not change in form. The four demonstrative adjectives, this, that, these, and those, are identical to the demonstrative pronouns. They are used to distinguish the person or thing being described from others of the same category or class. This and these describe people or things that are nearby or in the present. That and those are used to describe people or things that are not here, not nearby, or in the past or future. These adjectives, like the definite and indefinite articles a, an, and the, always come before any other adjectives that modify a noun. An indefinite adjective. This describes a whole group or class of people or things, or a person or thing that is not identified or familiar. The most common indefinite adjectives are all, another, any, both, each, either, enough, every, few, half, least, less, little, many, more, most, much, neither, one, and two, three, etc. Other, several, some, such, whole. Interrogative adjectives, primarily which, what, and whose, are used to begin questions. They can also be used as interrogative pronouns. Nouns often function like adjectives. When they do, they are called attributive nouns. When two or more adjectives are used before a noun, they should be put in proper order. Any article a, an, or the, demonstrative adjective, that, these, etc., indefinite adjective, another, both, etc., or possessive adjective, her, our, etc., always comes first. If there is a number, it comes first or second. True adjectives always come before attributive nouns, beg your pardon. The ordering of true adjectives will vary, but the following order is the most common: opinion word, size, age, shape, color, nationality, material. To maximize time, I'll just list some types of adjectives as you have them across the web in no particular order. There is the interrogative adjective, we have possessive adjectives, demonstrative adjectives, proper adjectives, compound adjectives, quantitative adjectives, attributive adjectives, indefinite adjectives, numbers adjectives, participial adjectives, superlative adjectives, predicative adjectives, comparative adjectives, appositive adjectives, predicate adjectives, articles, descriptive adjectives, distributive adjectives, coordinate adjectives, denominal adjectives, emphasizing adjectives, gradable adjectives. Dear viewer, this is a good place to slow. Just pause and ponder. I will be back after this breather, and we'll be talking about relationships and books, or if you please, relationships and learning, how our relationships affect how we read or learn. Please stay tuned. The bookshelf will be back shortly. Glad to be back, knowing you are still on the other side as well. The concluding part of the bookshelf today will focus on how our relationships affect our reading and learning culture. We should understand that people cannot give what they do not have. For instance, you should not be disappointed as a media personality when, after reporting a heartbreak over the phone, your gourmet friend offers you food. This is what they have. And I'm so tempted right now to mention names, but I will not. I will not mention names. You know, this person is actually also a media person, and she had, you know, issues. There was this contract she was bidding, she didn't get. And then she reached out to her friend who, you know, does everything food. Oh, you know, I didn't get this. Oh my goodness. And the friend went, oh, I'm so sorry. I know you put on a lot. Should I send you food? That's what she had. That's what he had. That's what they had. I mean, so you can't give what you do not have. When you know, we are experiencing things, the influence the people around us have plays pivotal role in the decisions that we'll make and the outcomes, the results that we will get. I'm going to look, for instance, at the biblical Daniel, who knew by books, understanding by books, the results you want, the answer that you seek is in books. Someone said sometime that if you give a book and he mentioned the particular people of color and said they just will never, if you put the secrets to their problems in the book, they will never get it because they will never get to open the book to read it. Another kind of joke that went around sometime that a couple, the pastor came visiting and they had dinner and a check was missing. They had already signed a particular check, I think wanted to use it the next day or so. And then they felt, okay, so it's the preacher who came and picked it up and all. And some way, somehow, it got to the preacher and he reached out to them. So I heard this, you're looking for the check. Why? The Bible was on the table and I dropped it in the Bible. Is it that you do not read the Bible? And it went, and they all went, whoa, went back home, checked and found the check leaflet right there in the Bible, sitting pretty, idle actually, doing nothing, waiting for who will pick it up and go use it in the bank. The secret to everything we need for the next level is dependent on books, and it will be affected. Really, really a great determinant. We cannot overemphasize relationship. These people around us are a great determinant as touching what we will do and the results that we are going to get, the decisions that we're going to make, and the results that we are going to be getting. Even authors read, great men read. the names are replete. I could just go on and on about people who get to read. We've had stories, of persons who were surrounded by people who read, and because of that, they also begin to read. So for today, the bonus part of the bookshelf is focusing greatly on relationships. We want for you to look at the people around you. How are they helping you to get better? Search deep within. Someone says, search your heart, search your soul. That way back on. So go ahead and search your heart, search your soul. The people around you, how are they affecting you to in you moving from where you are now to the very next level that you ought to be? I think it's a very good time. Earlier we mentioned about, okay, so how many days to the end of the year, or how many days to your next birthday? Even if it's just the next 10 hours thereabouts, the next 8 hours, the next 6 hours to your next birthday or to the end of the year, please revisit your circle. You can't be better than the people you surround yourself with. I'll give a very personal example. So I got into higher institution. I was quite young, still very young. So I got into higher institution, and there was this group I found myself around who would say, oh, let my people go. If you're from this part of Nigeria, okay, let my people go just for me to pass and just move. And I was experiencing let my people go until I woke up myself one day and I said, I do not want to move with these people anymore. And then I started having my A's back. My results are there. I began to have better results. So you need to look at the people around you. See, you're going to be in that situation, whether you're in school, whether you're running a project, whether you're running a company, whatever it is you're doing, you're only going to be in it for so long. 60 years is dated. There is a southwestern Nigerian proverb that says that, or it's saying though, that says once it has a number, I mean, you've defeated it. So even if you stay 60, if you stay 70, if you stay 90, if you stay 100, if you stay 150, it's dated, it is numbered, and it will expire. That's it. It is going to expire. So why not just make the most out of it? Bring the best out of it. Put the best into it so you can bring the best out of it. Your circle is important. The people you surround yourself with. I mean, this could even be one of the reasons you've not been able to embark on the challenge for this year to learn a new language, because you're thinking the people around you are not supportive. They're going to mock you. They're going to make jest of you. It tells me, one, that your mind needs to grow. You shouldn't beg to be around people. Listen, anyone who doesn't support your vision, who doesn't support your dream, who doesn't support your growth, has already signed themselves off of that growth when it happens. If they do not respect your dream, they do not respect, okay, so this is what you want to do. And then okay, so I was reading up on the word groveling, and you can imagine just that word, groveling. It's one of the words during the preparatory sessions for Akila in her school before she went on for the spelling bee. I remembered after how many years. So I went on and I began to groveling. And then you're just, more like being a slave just to be around people. Are you kidding me? You deserve better. You deserve better. Encourage yourself to be around the right people. Work towards it. Let them mock you. It's a matter of time. We've talked on that book by Ben Carson. Begin to work on yourself. Start now, gifted hand. He got to a point he knew he needed to change the people around him. See, you cannot be better. I'm going to say it again. You cannot be better than your environment. You cannot be better than the people that you surround yourself with. And you know the painful part? They never tell you stuff they do. They just keep coming to show you their results. Whether the results are fake or not, you keep getting hurt that they're having results and you're stagnant. And it gets to a point they kick you out of their lives. You do not even have permission to come around them anymore. So why not do yourself some favor right now and work on the environment, the people around you? The difference between where you are and where you're going is the people you surround yourself. So we find some of the top persons in our nation, we find some of the top persons on our continent, we find some of the top persons around the world. Oh, the side from way back. Who are the people? Where are the people that you started with from way back? Because you have a way back. Listen, even if you're 6 months old. Hello, toddler. You have a way back. You have a way back. And guess the African proverb. It said the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So please, do it now. Begin to review the people around you and then review yourself. Remember, I said that first. Review yourself. Then you start checking out the people around you. And then you can start moving towards your goal. Start moving towards your goal. Don't hang around persons who are going to say, just let my people go. Don't just get by. Don't just get by. There is more to life. Okay, so some folks at some point thought having 1 million was the big deal. Oh my goodness. Once upon a time, some people were praying, oh Lord, let my parents have 1,000 naira. Hey, anybody that has 1 million. I was seeing a video of a lady wanted to get a necklace, 1 million naira, 1 million just for necklace. It didn't come, it was not a complete set. It didn't have earrings and all that. It was just the neck piece. 1 million naira. So if you think, okay, so I'm just getting by, I'm just fine. You're not fine. How about the next set of people? Who are you going to inspire? What legacy are you leaving? It begins with you. And the time to start is now. And if there is nobody to inspire you, start with yourself. I talked about Daniel. He knew by books. He began with himself and then began to recruit. People started coming to him. We have a sister station for Western Spring Television. That's Rave 91.7 FM. One of the fine, we have very, very beautiful station identities. One of the finest that I love so much. After the CEO had told me the story behind it, if you build it, they will come. So you build you, and then people will come. And then you start growing the environment, the communities that you want. I mean, look at content creators all around. A lot of them come up with skits and all that. And then the next thing you're hearing, this person has a PhD. And you're like, oh, so he's been doing PhD? Yes. They've been doing PhD. And you were there burning your data, burning your money, and not growing. So your environment is important. It's the people, it's the material, it's the content you allow yourself to consume. I'm glad you're consuming this at this time. Please consume more. Because you begin to look, remember, like the circle that you keep. You begin to look like your environment. Reading brings changes. When you read, you have changes. You're filled. Your mind is open. You're inspired. You can bring us the new world. Ideas would just begin to spring within you. Your responses are different. And then people are asking, okay, what's up with you? How do you? And then you can tell them, oh, this, oh, that. I kid you not. We're saying the world is going down. No, the world is going down because it's looking like the direction you're facing. If you face this other side, you'll find the world is actually coming up. It begins with you. The world is waiting for you. I am waiting for you. You hear me always say that I look forward to your success story. It is true. I'm saying it now. I look forward to your success story. Let's do it together. And valued viewer, this is about how we get to call it a wrap on this episode of The Bookshelf. I look forward to another rewarding installment. I am Damilola Raphael, your teaching and learning advocate, and I'm saying adios, Dios los bendiga.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Comedy is winning fans globally, but we are losing our wildlife to illegal bushmeat, and this is not funny at all. If we continue this way, we will risk losing all our animals and leaving nothing behind for the generations to come. Tell your family and friends not to buy or sell illegal bushmeat, because protecting nature protects us all.
Since assuming the mantle of leadership in Osun, the state of the Living Spring, Governor Ademola Adeleke has left no one in doubt about his avowed commitment to the overall development of the state. The footprints of his transformative agenda span through education, transportation, health, staff welfare, social infrastructure, among others. Living Spring Update, a weekly diary on Rave 91.7 FM and Western Spring Television, Channel 190 Star Times DTT, will extract Governor Adeleke's development agenda for your listening and viewing pleasure. From the bustling market to innovative agricultural initiatives, from the testimonies of civil servants and retirees to the cheers of artisans across the state of the Living Spring, you will discover how Governor Adeleke's administration is driving the economic growth of the state. Stay informed and engaged with Living Spring Update, where we will delve deep into the details of ongoing infrastructural projects, new initiatives in healthcare, education, and other impactful strides being made across the state. Tune in every Wednesday on Western Spring Television at 6 p.m. and every Saturday on Rave 91.7 FM at exactly 2:30 p.m. You can follow us on all our social media platforms at Western Spring Television and at Rave 917 FM as we tell the story of how Governor Adeleke is shaping Osun into the beacon of development and opportunity.
Living Spring Update is a production of the Office of the Spokesperson to the Governor, Governor's Office, Oshogbo.
I am Josh Too Funny. I'm a comedian and I like to make people laugh.
Fly up!
But it's not funny that we're losing our unique gorillas. We only have around 100 left, and they are threatened by habitat loss and traps set for bushmeat. So please say no to illegal bushmeat, because protecting nature protects us all.
Turn it up!
is the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be showing on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Television gives everyone an image, but radio gives birth to a million images in a million brains. People say video killed the radio star, but here in Osun State, radio is very much alive and thriving. It is not just about tuning in. It is about tapping into the endless possibilities of the human imagination.
Welcome to Rave 91.7 FM, where the airwaves come alive with a symphony of voices, music, and ideas.
Nestled in the heart of Oshogbo, this station isn't just a broadcaster, it's a storyteller, a magician weaving dreams in the minds of its listeners. As Peggy Nonan aptly puts it, radio allows us to paint our own pictures, to create our own words with every spoken word and every note played.
Inside the walls of Rave FM, the magic happens. From the crackling energy of morning talk shows to the soul-stirring melodies of afternoon playlist, every moment is an invitation to explore, to dream, and to connect.
Whether it's news, music, or lively discussions, Rave 91.7 FM is more than just a radio station. It's a companion, a confidant, and a catalyst for change in the community. Fast forward 7 years from the birth of Rave 91.7 FM, a beacon of youth culture and innovation, and we'll find ourselves just a couple of days away from a momentous occasion, the birthday of Western Spring Television, WSTV. With hyper-local reach and language, WSTV speaks directly to its audience in a 60-40 mix of Yoruba and English languages, ensuring that everyone feels represented and included.
Built on a tested and trusted system, WSTV upholds the value of truth and integrity, serving as a beacon of objectivity in a sea of media noise.
We reflect on the journey that brought us here, from humble beginnings to a trusted source of information and inspiration. WSTV stands as a testament to the power of media to inform, educate, and empower. So join us as we continue to break barriers, challenge norms, and pave the way for a brighter, more inclusive media landscape. Western Spring Television, where every story matters and every voice is heard.
Our pangolins are in crisis. They need our help. Hundreds of pangolins are killed for their meat and scales every year. If we continue this way, we'll risk losing them forever. Tell your family and friends to say no to illegal bushmeat from pangolins, because protecting nature protects us all.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission. Even diffusion. Vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkele was a natively corrupted version of Peculiar Mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girls got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be showing on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Up to 75% of all new human diseases come from animals. Ebola, anthrax, and monkeypox all came from animals. And as more dead wild animals are being transported to our cities, we risk introducing another disease outbreak. This will affect our health, economy, and well-being. So say no to illegal bushmeat, because protecting nature protects us all.
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as the break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened will have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, projecting culture and tradition to the world. Brought to you as the break and recapped every hour for your update.
Fellow Nigeria, how to improve your welfare is of paramount importance to me.
Produced and brought to you in a unique way never before seen.
Western Spring.
And Western Spring Television. Television is coming home in your color and culture.
Madu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious.
Western Spring Television, ours it is.
All right, good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, world. This is the Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. And what we do here is to have conversation about everything that has to do with this nation. Femi Ojo is my name. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you at this midweek edition of the program. Usually we look at the headlines, firstly, on the program, juicy headlines from our major dailies. Then we get talking about these issues. This is what we do here at this time. Of course, with Evelyn. Good morning.
Good morning, Femi.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
Very well. How do you do too?
I'm blessed, and we thank God for
Good to
life.
know.
My name is Evelyn Ohiole, and of course, I'm joining Femi to welcome you to another beautiful edition on a Morning Spring.
Right.
You know that we have to talk about matters that concern us as a country, matters that concern you and I, so that we can have deeper understanding, better perspectives, and be able to make informed choices and decisions. Do not go anywhere, do not miss any part, because today's edition, it promises to be enlightening, educative, and of course, eye-opening.
Of course. We take this quick break right now. When we come back, the papers are ready. So if you are ready, we are as well. Time is now. Right. We'll be starting the headline segment from the Punch newspaper. Marketers plan petrol imports to bridge shortfall. Right, shortfall. That sounds like a term that has been given a new meaning recently, especially by the NNPCL. Marketers plan petrol imports to bridge shortfall. Now, with a rider, Dangote not producing enough to meet domestic demand currently, and dealers claim Ipman loads NNPCL PMI. Again, Dangote not producing enough to meet domestic demand currently, and dealers claim and Ipman loads NNPCL PMI. And below that, we have here, the inauguration of the PDP governorship campaign in Ondo State and presentation of the party's flag to the gubernatorial candidate, governorship candidate, Shiva Bola Ajayi in Akure on Tuesday. Of course, the crowd of supporters of the party at the rally and the PDP national leaders, well, the state governors at the same rally. Well, the next part talk about Israel state of contact rather is Ondo State. be remaining in power, or the PDP will take charge, or any other political party there as well. You know, when this was going on yesterday, somebody make it the point on social media to say they hope those governors and the leaders in Akure yesterday, the last time they were seen in Akure will not be the last time. You know, they will be showing the support, especially with what happened in Edo State, where the APC, high and mighty, you know, they were in Edo State throughout the election period. And virtually the leaders of the PDP were really nowhere to be found. Maybe apart from Amadou Fintiri, you know, these are some of the issues as well. But another school of thought will say, we just hope these leaders will always come around, you know, to see to the things that has to do with the people with this kind of strength and vigor. And of course, you know, this camaraderie they show when it comes to election. Can you please do that? When it has to do with security, come together with that strength and speed. When it has to do with the economy, come together. Comparative advantage and advantages of each state, come together to do this as well. It should not just be when you are preparing to wrest power or to cement power wherever you are. You see them donning agbada here and there, you know, baseball cap here and there, everybody throwing, you know, some words in. And now, so when the politics are over, let governance begin. All right, below that, high petrol price pushes inflation to 32.7%, report. And Oyon Dam, anxiety grips Ogun community over fresh flooding. I wouldn't say more than that. Naira among worst performing currencies. World Bank, I'm not sure we need the World Bank to tell us that. It's obvious. I don't need a degree in economics to know that. And here, fresh crises hit rivers as Profubra Wike lawmakers clash. I think it's turning to the time that I think the rest of the country are trying to move on from these, because it's like, if this is what you guys want to do with your lives every day, please spare us. We have another thing to do. And PDP crisis, Damagum gets reprieve, leads Ondo campaign. Okay. And government hires sons for Lagos Calabar Highway suit. Who's going to pay for that? Okay, maybe it's part of the, you know, I'm sure they will have factored it into the cost of that particular project. Hiring senior advocate of Nigerians, you know, to defend the project when people come with the suit. And lastly, federal government plans cash transfer for 20 million poor Nigerians. Here we go again. Familiar? Evelyn?
Yeah, of course. But then, you know, it is what it is in this part of the world. 20 million for Nigerians. We've actually had that. It rings a bell, especially with the previous administration, and we know what it led to, especially with the ministry that handled that particular exercise. Exactly. So we hope we will not have a repeat of this, even though a lot of people that I know that are closer to people that I know, you know, actually got
You've
that
never
transfer.
Had anybody around you.
Exactly, that got that transfer.
From the Richie, maybe. That's why, you know. You remember a time where bundles, worth of money was put on the table and people will line up, at least as we saw in the picture, to come and collect. Until now, you know, we don't know how that money was spent. All we saw was suspension of the minister that took over. And then there was a threat of a court proceedings against Umar Farouk, Sadia Umar Farouk, the minister in charge at the time under Buhari. Until now, nothing has happened. And then we are going, when I mean we, the federal government are saying 20 million Nigerians should prepare to have transfer of cash done to them.
Exactly.
Interesting. All right. There you go.
All right, from the Punch newspaper this morning, we move on to Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper for today. Let's see what it has for us. Daily Trust, of course, PDP crisis. You can see the bold big caption there. Damagum may step down next week. Aggrieved members told to withdraw court cases. Governors ask factional leader to vacate office, lift suspension. So we can't say that we have a resolution in the PDP at this point, at least to some extent. The crisis.
They have resolution.
Okay, they have. Thank you for that. I'm not part of the PDP. They've been able to sheath their swords and resolve the crisis, the lingering crisis in the People's Democratic Party, because a lot of people feared an implosion might happen from that party. Naira plunges to 1,700 Naira to $1 at parallel market. That's going, on the coast, on the way to 2,000 Naira. This is not on the way to Damascus right now. On the way to 2,000 Naira, and we hope we do not get there. Cholera kills...
Where are we currently?
1,700. That's what the paper reported this morning.
No, I just want to be sure. Because of that, your prayer, so that you know the intensity of what you have to put, so that we don't get there.
Cholera kills 45 in Kano. Petrol price hikes push inflation to 32.7%. Power grid collapses twice in 24 hours as restoration efforts fall. We had that happen yesterday, and day before yesterday, and yesterday we had another one within 24 hours collapsing. And top corner, NNPP Group 6 Governor Yusuf's independence from Kwankwaso. Dangote Ipman meeting fails to hold. And lastly, from Daily Trust, passengers stranded as airlines cut domestic flights. That will be all from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
All right. We head straight to the Guardian newspaper, the Guardian for today. World Food Day. Right. Inflation-weary Nigerians begging, borrowing for survival. World Food Day, they set aside for food, okay, for the foodie, and, for everyone. Anybody alive should be eating. But, you can never say never. Maybe there are some persons who live on other things. But then, World Food Day, inflation-weary Nigerians begging and borrowing for survival. And below that, you see very interesting statistics here. The picture of a meter, a gauge, denoting the extreme, possibly nothing part, and the F for maybe the halves, more like the halves and the have not rather, and then the stomach being in the middle, and you see the meter, the gauge there towards nothing, almost towards nothing, the fork and the knife as well. By the way, by the conservative estimate of the national average cost of a healthy diet of 1,255 Naira per meal, as of August figures, a family of 4 would require 150,000 Naira a month to have a meal daily. Actually, you have to have a conservative estimate of the national average as 1,255 Naira. So, family of 4 would need 150,000 Naira. How much is the minimum wage again? 70,000 Naira. That is yet to take off in many states. And 150,000, how much are you making? You want to use 150,000 Naira to eat, conservatively, that's the way. A meal, just a meal. A day. All right. And low-income families unable to afford basic foods. You can see the picture, a caricature of a woman, obviously with loads on the head, dragging a child along. And many Nigerians will struggle to meet the expenditures between now and 2025. Will struggle. I think they are already struggling. Already. That's the thing. All right, now towards 2025. 2025 is how many months again? Less than 3 months away, and we are here right now. And 1.6 million hectares of land have been inundated by flood, climate-induced issues, and insecurity, especially the latter. And recently, the former as well, 50% of fresh agricultural produce in Nigeria is lost during the post-harvest stage. I think everybody can agree with that. Because for tomatoes, vegetables, even if they struggle in the places that you don't have bandits, harvest some of these things before they are transported to the market, to the sellers. You know, sometimes the seller one who will transport to the bigger market. Imagine somebody from somewhere in Owada transporting it to maybe Alekuwodo market, and another middleman waiting to transport that from Alekuwodo market to Lagos. You can't imagine the kind of loss that will have been experienced by that. And court sentences teenager to 5 years imprisonment for sexual assault. That's a no-no. Nobody should be, either you're a teenager, a minor against a minor, an adult against a minor against an adult, anything assault. It doesn't have a place in our society. Moving on, Nigeria. Others may need 100 years to end extreme poverty, says World Bank. You know, since yesterday or 2 days ago, there has been a series of reports from World Bank, and one is, you are forced to just ask the question, why is World Bank on our matter like this? One report or the other, and it's towards the negative, by the way, towards the negative. For many persons say, maybe that's, sadly, maybe that's the reality.
Are you asking why World Bank is on our matter? The money you're spending, I mean, you're debtors to them. You're debtors to them. They're your creditors in a way. Yeah. So, of course, they have every right to be your business and how you spend their money.
As a country,
exactly.
I've been seeing a series of reports.
You cannot be a beggar and you're forming big boy. Why?
Anyway, even they will say even the US as possibly virtually the biggest debt.
But they know the capacity of the US and what the US is using the money for.
Yeah.
Well, can they say the same for your country? Can they say the same for your country?
Yeah, we are Nigeria. All right, okay. That's why I think there should be a retraction. What do you mean by your country? Where are you from?
Is Nigeria not your country?
Where is your own country? Why are you referring it to me in the second person singular or plural? Are you in Libya?
No, you don't know. It's in the context of
Evelyn,
which you are discussing.
Right or right?
There's a way.
Where are you from?
I'm Nigerian.
Good.
Full-blooded Nigerian.
Maybe you are from Edo State. You are not from Nigeria. Your policies punishing Nigerians. Professional bodies tell Tinubu. Let me put that one in caps. Your policies punishing Nigerians. Professional bodies tell Tinubu. I think he knows. I bet it's because he has said, I've seen your plight. I understand, empathize with you, but I hope, I wish there were better ways, but there are not better ways. Okay. Abbas flees 10,000 monthly upkeep for pensioners. Okay, so what he's going to do about it? 10,000 upkeep for pensioners. So after he has played it, found out it, so what is it going to do? Now here, Lagos Red Line begins operations to move 500,000 passengers daily. Well, we say, better late than never. As many persons we agree, Lagos should have been on this project or on this kind of transportation plan like the last 20 years or so as a purported mega city. But then here we go, 500,000 passengers, withdrawn, removed from the road. I think that would go a lot. Maybe some of these things will be eased. All right, moving on. And by the way, when we will get to the point where Ocean, we have a blue line, a red line, a green line, any line, by the way, I don't want to ask you because I'm not sure you are part of us here.
Now, the black line already.
Power Minister denies multiple grid collapses, blames minor trip-offs. Okay, again. Power Minister denies multiple grid collapses, blames minor trip-offs. Okay, it's not a total collapse. They are just trip-offs. No wonder Evelyn wanted to deny our country or back tacitly.
No, I wouldn't do that.
We caught her.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay, you don't have a choice. The moment you open your mouth and say, where are you from? Say you are Evelyn Oyole. Nigeria lie. Oh yeah, keep. Moving on, just below that, you have the men them. The way we say it, PDP, high and mighty, campaigning there at the flag of. You can see the Osun State governor, conspicuously there. The Makinde as well, and other leaders, preparing for the elections. All right, that will be all from the Guardian.
And from the Guardian, we take a journey to Nigerian Tribune. Let's see what we have there. On Nigerian Tribune, PDP governors resolve NWC crisis, with some riders here ask parties to revert to status quo. A Mawule-led Rivers Assembly declares pro-Fubara lawmakers' seats vacant. Your seats already declared vacant since December 13, pro-Fubara lawmakers insist. Of course, the crisis in Rivers State has not abated, and it's the battle of the House of Assembly. I mean, different House of Assembly, the 26-member House of Assembly and the 3-man House of Assembly, declaring each other's seat vacant. And of course, I do not envy reporters at this time when they go to get any reports, because when this House sits, you have to refer to them as, a House of Assembly, Rivers State House of Assembly. When the other House sits, you still have to refer to them as Rivers State House of Assembly. So we have 2 houses of assembly in Rivers State in a federation called Nigeria that upholds democratic principles and the rule of law. And we wonder really, truly, how democratic is our country. And, we have the judiciary in place, and there are different court orders that have upheld these houses of assembly. Amazing. All right. Still on Nigerian Tribune. PDP flags off Ondo governorship campaign as Makinde demands redeployment of state rec. PDP flags off Ondo governorship campaign as Makinde demands redeployment of state rec, with rider Babalola not Ondo State indigent, says INEC. And away from that, or your government arraigns auxiliary on 17 counts charge. Of course, the man auxiliary is still embattled at this time. World Food Day, Nigerians groan as prices of food items continue to rise. Experts prefer solutions to food insecurity. It's amazing for me, the irony that on World Food Day, to commemorate the World Food Day, Nigerians have to pay more to get access to food. And for them to eat a balanced meal, they have to even pay higher. A lot of people, I was watching a report yesterday, and, a lady was saying that she hadn't taken anything since dawn, since morning, because to buy a plate of food now, she'll have to part with 2,000 naira for just a meal. And she said she's doing POS business. How can she afford one meal for 2,000 naira? And it's not like it's something, big, something large, just the basic.
Something basic.
So she had to just make do with bread. So she just had to eat bread, fill her tummy, and wait till evening. And I said it yesterday that Nigerians are not eating, they are not striving to eat balanced diet or a balanced meal anymore. They are not concerned about the nutrients. Now at the markets, people go for the rotten tomatoes, the spoiled pepper. Nobody is concerned about whether it's good or not. They'll tell you, I'll wash it, I'll grind it, you will not know. I'll add tomato paste to come out well. But the danger that goes on with these food items, a lot of times we hear, a particular family died after eating food and all of that. We are not paying attention to the fact that people cannot actually afford to buy good meal, good food items, standard food items anymore. It's a sad one for us as a country. But of course, we keep hoping against all odds, and we are hoping that one day in this country called our own, that food will not be a luxury anymore. It's a necessity. It's the basic necessity of life, and we should have access to it. It should be accessible, available, and affordable. All right, 2009 FGNRCU agreement. Yale Ahmed at 53-member renegotiation committee. This agreement has been since 2009, and we have renegotiation on negotiation. It is what it is. I know the number of industrial actions that ASU had to call or, go on, embark on because of this agreement, this 2009 FGN ASEAN agreement.
Right.
Inflation hits 32.70% in September, with the rising inflationary trend eroding manufacturers' investors' profit margins. CPE bank recapitalization to support $1 trillion economy by 2030. This is coming from the CBN governor. And foreign reserve rises to $39.12 billion. And lastly, court orders Very Dark Man to remove defamatory content about Falana and Son. I was expecting this because the father already said, the great Femi Falana already said he will not let this slide. He's going to take it
Very
up.
Dark Man gonna learn.
Exactly, especially when it came with death threats to our son and also arson threat to him and his chambers.
Yeah.
And he said he wasn't going to let this slide.
Right.
And now, you can't deal with, a person like Femi Falana and not expect him to use the tool of the law to,
That's what he does for a living.
to address situations.
Yeah.
So I hope Very Dark Man will be humble enough to probably, take down whatever defamatory statement. But of course, he has his own right to contend it in
If he
court.
sees that he's wrong.
To contend it
Yeah.
in court, contend that particular order in court, and let's see if he knows he's still right. He's on his right. I mean, it's a free world. It's rule of law. Everyone's got their own rights. But that will be all from Nigerian Tribune this morning.
Of course, that will be all for the segment. It's Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. The program will continue. Stay with us.
I am Josh Too Funny. I'm a comedian and I like to make people laugh.
Fly up.
But it's not funny that we're losing our unique gorillas. We only have around 100 left and they are threatened by habitat loss and traps set for bushmeat. So please say no to illegal bushmeat because protecting nature protects us all.
Here are 5 amazing fun facts I bet you never knew about Christianity.
Number 1, there are over 2.4 billion Christians worldwide.
Amazing fun fact number 2. The Bible is one of the best-selling books of all time, with more than 100 million copies sold every year.
Most Christians believe in heaven and hell.
The Bible is the most translated book in the world, with more than 3,000 languages.
Amazing fun fact number 5. Most Christians throw science out of the window without realizing that most scientists are Christians. Hello, I am Pastor Steve Akinwumi.
And I am Dr. Adeoye Oyewole.
Join us as we highlight and discuss day-to-day issues pertaining to the day-to-day living of every Christian.
Issues in Christendom shows every Sunday on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okiogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally, the first story building in Nigeria, is an archival museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And this morning, it's about the anti-corruption fight of the administration, actually, even successive administration, or previous administration rather. It was one of the core legs of the mandate of former President Muhammadu Buhari, anti-corruption drive, a revived economy, war against insecurity. When he was there, but how much of that was he able, to achieve? The jury is in the open about that. Even before that, like Jonathan time, the late Umar Musa Yar'Adua to former President Obasanjo's time, in which it was his tenure at the advent of this new democracy in 1999 that some of these anti-corruption body, apart from the statutory police and some of these other organizations, that was saddled with responsibility of upholding the law, fighting crimes, prosecution, and all of that. Now, other bodies were established. The ICPC, especially the EFCC, were established to fight corruption, financial corruption, independent corruption, and related, issues, which ICPC was established for. We have the NFIU again, Financial Intelligence Agency, to fight against some of those things. But then, how much has these agencies been able to do in the years past? But then, because of time, let's narrow it down. For the past 16 months, how effective have they been? The EFCC, the ICPC, even the NFIU as well. Recently, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came, and even before that, there have been success stories, quote-unquote success stories of what the EFCs have been able to do. But narrow it down now. How have they been, especially in the last few months? Where you talk in the street, the kind of perception, especially the FCC, how all of a sudden they have become very high-handed, which is not necessarily new. Some of their personnel go to clubs, go to lounges, all in the name of doing sting operations, and they do things that are not constant, with their laws. But when we talk about evidence, how much of that do we have? By the way, some states have petitioned them about the law establishing some of these agencies. But we're starting this morning from the success of the EFCC, the IPC, basically the anti-corruption drive of this administration. How much have they done, especially with the high-profile cases they've had on their hands? And it seems they have nothing to show for it. We have been joined this morning by a university don. He's here with us, a lawyer, a law lecturer at the University of Hull in the UK, Dr. Misbah Alamu-Lateef. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you. Good morning. Sorry, can you hear me?
Okay, if actually you can please speak up, Doctor. We can hardly hear you.
Okay, thank you. Let me check my volume then. Okay, can you hear me now?
Right.
Good morning.
And,
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you had my introduction. How will you place?
Yes, I did.
All right. How will you place the performance of the EFCC, the ICPC, even the NFIU, at least since President Bola Tinubu came in? Because if you ask the people on the streets, it's neither here or there.
Well, I don't think the success of or otherwise of the EFCC can really be located within any government per se, particularly a government that has not spent up to 2 years in the office. And I'm saying that we could say there are areas where we can say there are successes and there are failure in all the previous governments, and also even in the current government. In the current government, for example, an immediate example of failure of EFCC that comes to mind is how the case of former governor of Kogi State, Mr. Yaya Bello, has been mismanaged by the current EFCC, and I think that has created a sort of credibility issue for the current EFCC. So that's one example of failure, and perhaps there are quite many others. But for me, generally speaking, I think the EFCC has really declined over the years when we look at what we have seen in the recent time in the context of how EFCC came into the consciousness of Nigeria when it was established in 2002 or thereabouts. And there was so much, I would say, gravitas and so much promises, which Malam Nuhu Ribadu, as the then EFCC chairman, was able to, attract to the agency. It was a very effective institution, but I think over the years, politicians or elite, they found their way around the institution, and I think that has occasions decline. And this decline, in my opinion, has continued, unfortunately, progressively, such that even though, as I've said, there are some successes here and there, I will readily agree that it has been so much of decline than successes. And again, because I think there have been compromises and maybe failure of those who are supposed to be in charge of the EFCC. And the case of Yaya Bello, again, I think stand out, at least in the recent time.
Yeah.
So, and like I wrote somewhere, until a closure is brought to the Yaya Bello saga, until he is brought before the court, rightly or wrongly, to answer to his to the charges against him, I don't think the current EFCC will be able to wriggle out of the credibility crisis it is going through now. Mr. Yaya Bello presented himself after he was declared wanted by a court, and this declaration was also publicized by the EFCC. They had warrant of arrest and all of that. And luckily, just like that, he presented himself before the same agency, and then for whatever, I would say, irresponsible reasons, they could not arrest him. So, yes, the fight against corruption in Nigeria, I think, has moved from something that was really with something that had so much promises, and we thought, it was a very biting dog. But unfortunately, over the years, I think the teeth, have been less biting, and they continue to be less biting and biting. I don't know. I think the corruption which the EFCC is supposed to fight has also found its way into the EFCC itself as an institution, and that is quite disappointing, or an irony, that an agency set up to fight corruption is in itself. We may say these are mere allegations, but then the allegations, from the perception on the street, like you said in your intro, cannot just be wished away. There are some of things that we could also see. They are so apparent that things are not really well with the EFCC. But in fairness to them, this is not to say, again, there are no successes. To be honest, we also know that they are very busy in court. There have been arrests here and there, and we cannot say some level of corruptions are less important than others. So for as long as they are still able to fight some corruption at some level, I think we can afford to remain optimistic that perhaps the EFCC will turn around and maybe find its old glory.
All right.
I don't know if the glory is gone already. Anyway.
All right. I have to mention President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and in regard to the appointment of Ola Olukoyede, because he did that. Ola Olukoyede took over, after some time. Abdulrasheed Bawa, was suspended, he was investigated. Even till now, nothing. And that has always been, sadly, the issue. The same thing happened to Mago. Suspended, interrogated, investigated, till now, nothing. They are not prosecuted. They have always been living unceremonious version. The same thing with Ibrahim Lamode, Madam Waziri, many of them like that. Now we have Olukoyede. Before Olukoyede, there was nobody there because Bawa was suspended, but then officially took over from Bawa 12th of October 2023. A year later, when he came, he was talking tough. And, he was going to do this and do that. The Yaya Bello situation came up, and he granted a full press briefing saying he was ready to leave his job if actually he won't crack this case. And, we are talking about EFCC and ICPC having a sway, prosecution, and resort against politicians. It's easy to parade fraudsters, the one we call Yahoo boys and Yahoo girls. They put mugshot on their faces and then parade them, take their shots and put them on social media. But the big guys, yes, we know all crime are punishable, should be punishable by the law. But the big guys that are wreaking havoc to the tune of a suspected former state governor, Oluola Olukoyede, was very vocal. He was going to do this and do that. But many persons are saying maybe he's doing much of a talking than doing, and he's looking like, just like you said, it's a decline. So, before even taking, how will you assess the tenure of Ola Olukoyede? He has spent 1 year in office already, 1 year and 7 days or thereabout.
Well, it is good that you have highlighted how his predecessors, they departed from the EFCC. And that's another irony about the institution itself. Virtually all of them that you mentioned, including the Ribadu, who was so popular. And I must say that Ribadu himself, according to public perception, as of 2006, 2007, also got himself entangled, in political influence of the then president, Olusegun Obasanjo, who was rumored to have turned Ribadu to an attack dog, and it was so apparent. Anyway, for the current EFCC chairman, Mr. Olukayode, unfortunately, my verdict against him, is going to be very harsh, and I'm going to zero this down on Yaya Bello case. And I think he actually talks too much, with due respect to him, and I think this has been one of his greatest flaw. You see, as an institution, the head of that institution is not supposed to be so feasible or voluble as we have seen Mr. Olukayode, and I think this has been his major problem, like I said earlier, and this is what he has allowed to box him into the Yaya Bello corner as we speak. When you talk too much, and you promise or you make too many promises, then your words are not your band, then it becomes a credibility problem. So for me, really, yes, there have been a couple of arrests here and there. Cases are still ongoing in court. And as I said, I am not one to say some crime or corrupt practices are lesser than other. I think their mandate is to confront all corrupt practices in whatever shade. So as much as you want to give them credit, for confronting, so if you can call them menial thieves, petty thieves or petty corrupt persons, as the Yahoo guys and all of them may be classified. So as much as want to give them credit for that, this Yaya Bello dot in the circle, and some other prominent cases like that, will continue to rubbish on the integrity and credibility of the current chairman. And unfortunately, from the sign I've seen so far, if the signs are anything to go by, it is not, it is highly likely that it would also depart like his predecessor. And I hope that is not a cause, for EFCC, that all of the chairmen somehow, find themselves entangled in. So basically, I will not say so far so good under him, to be honest with you, because the case of Yaya Bello, and I'm repeating this, looms large. And for obvious reason, so many promises were made and opportunities were bungled, and people have suspected that perhaps there were other political undercurrents, or maybe the EFCC itself is being teleguided, or maybe, I don't know. But whatever it is, as I said earlier, for me, until Mr. Olukayode clears the Yaya Bello mess, which he has allowed to happen because of the unprofessional and even irresponsible way. I don't have anything against Mr. Yaya Bello, and I'm not saying he's guilty of anything or not. He may actually not be guilty. But you see, the way the prosecution has been handled so far, and the issue of his arrest, the hide and seek, the drama that the EFCC has brought into the whole mix, you could see that very recently, a popular social media guy, he was invited by the EFCC, and he literally declined to attend the invitation. He actually rubbish it on his social media handle. That popular guy, I don't want to mention his name. So that is the kind of, I would say, discredit that the EFCC has brought upon himself. And people have justified. They said, look, if you can arrest Yaya Bello, or if you have handled the case of Yaya Bello in this particular manner, why should you continue to earn respect? Why should people continue to? And that was what the guy actually leveraged on. And up till now, of course, we have not had anything from the EFCC, because I guess they also lost, the moral will, to actually go after him. This is an agency that is ordinarily empowered by law to invite people and to even arrest them if they decline arrest. But because Yaya Bello dot in the circle has become, I would say, a major. So for me, I would not say it is so far so good under the current EFCC chairman. There have been so much noises, there have been so much drama, than not that I really want to see anybody in particular behind the jail.
Yeah.
Before trial or conviction, but we want to see more of action than all of this noise. Or when you listen to an EFCC chairman and it seems you are listening to someone who was just merely sermonizing, pontificating or even lamenting about corruption, when we should be seeing action. We should be seeing, who has been arrested, who has been prosecuted, what case is upgoing in court. Again, I'm not saying they are not busy in court. They are quite busy, and I'm familiar with some of their cases, but I'm saying they could do better.
All right, Dr. Misbah, do you think that the chairman of the EFCC, Mr. Olaolu Koyede, was subdued by political influence? When he came in, he was talking tough. And of course, like you, Nigerians said, see, leave talk and let's see you work. And he promised the people that he was going to go after mega thieves. And he would not mind whose ox is God. He will ensure that what is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. As they are going for the petty thieves, they will also go for the mega thieves. But over the months, Nigerians have seen, a huge disconnection from what he said. So I'm asking you this question: Do you think that Mr. Olaolu Koyede was subdued by political influence? Because we know that there is an undue political influence in that particular commission, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
Well, from what I've said so far, my own inability to even give him a pass mark, and some of the things that we also know as we read them in the media, yes, it is possible to actually run with that speculation. And you can't blame people who speculate as such, because the EFCC itself, based on all I've said so far, and some of the things that you have also highlighted, has given the room for people to speculate. So yes, we are entitled to think that perhaps there are some political influences or political undercurrent underpinning, the recent activities of the EFCC. You see, the case of Yaya Bello, again, and I'm repeating that, gave the EFCC an opportunity to actually demonstrate to the world, and I would say even this current government, that the government can go after one of its own. I mean, it's quite obvious that Mr. Ayabelo featured prominently in the electioneering processes, that brought about the current president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So when people saw that Ayabelo was gone after, I know it gave some kind of, I would say, hope that this is perhaps indeed a renewed hope, because if someone as prominent as Ayabelo in that, scheme of things could be proceeded against like this, then, but all of a sudden, unfortunately, soon soon after, the EFCC dashed that hope with the way they have handled. Okay, why has it become so difficult, for example, to collaborate with other agencies to get Mr. Ayabelo arrested? We learn, I don't have anything against Mr. Ayabelo, and I really want to emphasize that. And I didn't ask them to go after him in the first place. So we are only analyzing based on what the EFCC itself put forward to us, and we are entitled to do so. So I don't really have this is not personally against Mr. Ayabelo, and I'm not saying he's guilty. I really want to emphasize that. But you see, the hope that the EFCC gave us when they proceeded against him, as one of the persons or people who are powerful in the current government, the EFCC dashed that hope. And that is a blot on the integrity and credibility of the chairman. So it is possible to actually suspect that perhaps some political, willing dealing has come in. And it's also possible that is not the case. It's possible that Mr. Olu Koyode himself, is the one who has not been exactly professional or maybe serious, with handling his job. Because from all I know, the FCC have all the legal instruments to be truly independent and to be truly effective if they want to be effective.
All right.
So,
talking about effectiveness, I have two questions, but the first one is, how do we sever the EFCC from undue political influence? You've made mention that there are speculations, which might be true, that there are political undertones, political undercurrents in some of the activities of the EFCC. How do we get to a point where we sever this relationship, this untoward relationship between the EFCC and the politicians or political influence or whoever is, playing the tune for the EFCC?
Okay, I think the bit that the law can do in achieving that is to have provisions that indicate true independence of an institution. And I want to say with all authority that the EFCC Act has all the provisions of the law to make it truly an independent institution, just like the INEC. So for me, therefore, where the bit of the law has been settled, I think the rest is left to the credibility of whoever is appointed to head the institution. So this is why I will return it back to the current chairman and not even the president. Yes, it is possible the president or his handlers or whoever, are trying to, I don't know, we are allowed to speculate, rightly or wrongly. I mean, it's part of our democratic rights and based on things that we can observe. But if the person appointed, is not ready to do the job or is not ready to assert that, responsibility or independence, well, there is little the law can do to help that person. So what can we do? In the first place, I think those who have the power to appoint them, like the president, should always do their best to appoint people who have credibility. And I'm not by this suggesting that Mr. Olukoyede does not have credibility. No, I don't have any evidence to suggest that, even though I've said that he is failing and he is disappointing.
All right.
But then, okay. So but the point basically is that it goes to the credibility and integrity of the persons appointed. The law gives them the teeth to bite if they want to.
Okay.
So they can refuse the president. And a person of integrity, for example, can actually resign, can say, look, I can't do this anymore. So if Mr. Olukoyede promised that he would rather resign if he failed with Yahaya Bello, has he resigned? If somebody is applying pressure on him, and to the extent that the integrity and credibility of the EFCC is now being dragged in the mud because of one suspect, then has he taken the bold step to resign?
All right.
So these are issues of credibility and integrity of the persons appointed.
Dr. Misbah, we have a lot to unpack today on the show, but before Femi comes in, let's talk about the influence of the judiciary on some of the activities, or the prosecution by the EFCC. We've had cases where the suspects will go to court and the court will restrain the EFCC from inviting them for questioning, for arresting them. We've had judgment and counter judgment. We talked about the Kogi State former governor Yahaya Bello. We had a judgment from the Federal High Court giving permission to the EFCC to go arrest the former governor, and another judgment from the State High Court in Kogi restricting the EFCC from going on with the arrest. So let's talk about what the damage the judiciary has caused. I mean, that's your own constituency, if I'm to put it that way. So we hope you will be frank enough to talk to us about the harm that the judiciary has caused on the prosecution of the EFCC that is actually limiting the activities of the EFCC from doing what they are supposed to do and come out with results.
Well, when people say corruption is endemic in Nigeria, I think this is exactly what they mean. It's everywhere, unfortunately so. I mean, it's in all of our institutions of government, public, and then even in private. So for me, really, yes, it is not possible to exonerate the judiciary from the current, I would say, mess we have found ourselves as a country. Yes, there are some bad eggs in the judiciary, and some of these conflicting and contrary judgment from courts of coordinate jurisdiction, they are immediate pointers to the corrupt practices in the judiciary. But going back to the particular case that you referenced, I think it is heartwarming that eventually the Court of Appeal settled that conflict by saying that the Kogi State Court that barred the EFCC from arresting Yahaya Bello or whatever, was wrong. Now, Mr. Yahaya Bello has proceeded to the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, the judgment of the lower court against the EFCC that barred them from arresting, inviting, should never have happened in the first place. Yes, Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution guarantees certain fundamental human rights to all citizens, including Mr. Yahaya Bello. So people can approach the court to enforce their fundamental human rights. They can do all of that. But you see, when people approach the court to say an investigative or prosecutory agency cannot invite them or cannot prosecute them, and you see a judge, seated in a hallowed chamber, or what is supposed to be a hallowed chamber, and grant that kind of order, it can be very scandalous, and it can only be scandalous anyway. So, but then we also have judges who are very brave, who are incorruptible, and who will not, I would say, succumb to sub-political or partisan influence. So for me, really, yes, the bad eggs in the judiciary, they have also contributed to the mess, of corrupt practices in our system. So it's a symbiotic, unfortunately, situation where multiple agencies, they work together wittingly or unwittingly, to contribute to this rot.
All right. And quickly, before we switch gears, Dr. Lateef, still picking the Yahaya Bello's case, because it appears like that's the biggest political case the EFCC is handling. And just like you said, while we are not, judging the matter, because we don't have the power to do so, but you said, and I agree, many Nigerians will agree to say, we could have the EFCC and Ola Olukoyede could have used that to make a statement, and restore credibility, to the agency. But then Evelyn talked about the undue influence of politicians, on this matter, which is our first topic this morning. The case in which a sitting governor who swore to uphold the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the grand norm, and that of his state, has been meddling in the case. The extraction, what looked like a scene from a war movie, either from Nollywood or Hollywood, in which he prevented, when the EFCC said that they went for him, to arrest him, he came there, whisked him away, and, although many persons feel the FCC was serious, there's a lot that could have done. Gunshots rented the air, and the place was a mess, and, that situation was there. And after series and series of calls to Yaya Bello, we learned he appeared at EFCC headquarters in the company of a sitting governor again. And the EFCC, by the way, they denied until that he wasn't there. But later, we heard that, yes, he was there, but he wasn't there in the capacity of somebody that has been invited. He came in the convoy of the governor that has immunity and all of that. A sitting governor meddling in this case. As a lawyer, what do you think the law will say, or what is the law saying on this? The immunity of Governor Ododo, does it prevent the arrest and prosecution of alleged suspects?
Well, the immunity of a sitting governor or president as guaranteed by Section 308 of the 1999 Constitution applies only to the benefit of that office holder. It doesn't even apply to their immediate family. It doesn't apply to the first lady or son or whoever. So for me, really, I think those are lame excuses on behalf of the EFCC or by the EFCC. Yes, we could condemn Mr. Ododo, the current governor of Kogi State, for all we care, for, I would say, his lack of, I don't want to, maybe decency, the way, but then this is politics. Politics in the sense that we know how Mr. Ododo himself became the governor. Yes, Mr. Ayabelo literally anointed him and an election took place. Yeah. Well, whatever it is, the election was certified credible, and that's fine. So Mr. Ododo is readily, a godson to Mr. Ayabelo. So it is okay that in politics, people support themselves, and then some do it so shamelessly that they go overboard to do things that are not decent for their office. And that is another subject for another day. On the part of Mr. Ododo, I think that's about his own, that tells you, the kind of person, I'm sorry to say, he is. But beyond that, I think the blame still goes back to the EFCC. This immunity endures only to the benefit of Mr. Ododo, as I said. So nothing stops them, for example, from arresting Mr. Ayabelo on the day he stepped his foot on the premises of the EFCC. And I've, in another write-up somewhere, describe, that incident as the most irresponsible, professional failing of any security agency in the world that I've ever seen anywhere. Someone was declared wanted, you had a warrant of arrest, he came to your premises, and irresponsibly, you allow him to go. It's like a sheep walking into the den of a wolf, if you like, or lion, and then living freely. It doesn't happen anywhere. But that is by the way. So for me, really, this is not so much about Mr. Ododo than it is about the failure of an institution that has let Nigerians down. And that is the EFCC in this case. Right. Mr. Ododo is doing his own for his political capital. He wants to be seen to shield or protect his godfather, fine. People do that in politics and even in social life and all of those, fine. But beyond that, again, as I said earlier, the EFCC could have collaborated with other agencies. They could have smoked him out of government house. The Constitution of Nigeria does not attach immunity to government house or their premises. The immunity is for the occupier. That is a governor. Right. Okay? So they could have smoked him out by collaborating with other security agencies. They could have found him. As a former governor, he probably has police orderly who still accompany him. So why can't the police direct their orderly to arrest him or even withdraw the order for him, whatever the case. So for me, like I said earlier, this appears to be a multifaceted, institutional conspiracy or complicit, if you like. Otherwise, Mr. Ayabelo should have had his day in court as we speak now. And I'm saying all of this because we need to protect the integrity of our institutions. I don't have anything against Mr. Odudo or Mr. Ayabelo, but you see, when people rubbish our institutions the way we have seen the EFCC handle this case so far, we would all suffer for it. And that was what gave the audacity to that popular social media guy to, rebuff a recent invitation of the EFCC.
Right.
And then the EFCC appear helpless. Yes.
All right. And, okay. Obviously, the FCC dropped the ball there. Time will not permit us to look into the activities of the ICPC and the NFI. But then switching gears right now, a few days ago, Kogi State, instituted a suit against the EFCC, the ICPC, and the NFIU as well. Well, chief among of those agencies, the FCC, and they were joined by some other states, 15 of them. Although Ogun State have said about the suit, about the FCC, they are no more part of it, but they are still seeking redress in other cases as well. And the Kogi State government, through its Attorney General, dragged the federal government to the Apex Court to challenge the powers of the FCC, the NFIU, as well as any of its anti-corruption agencies to investigate, arrest, or even prosecute in respect of the administration of funds belonging to the state. However, while suit was pending, Ondo, Edo, Katsina, Ogun, Sokoto, Jigawa, Enugu, Benue, Anambra, Plateau, Cross River, and Niger State applied to be joined as plaintiffs. Now, it is the position of the plaintiffs that the EFCC's Establishment Act runs contrary to the Constitution, which is the supreme law, hence the EFCC's Act be declared a nullity. They said, and they argued that the Supreme Court in Dr. Joseph Nwobike and Federal Republic of Nigeria had held that it was a United Nations Convention against Corruption that was reduced, emphasis on the word reduced, into the EFCC Establishment Act, and that in enacting this law in 2004, the provision of Section 12 of the 1999 Constitution as amended was not followed. So the argument was that in bringing a convention into the Nigerian law, the provision of Section 12 must be complied with. That being said, Doctor, I'll allow you to, just have an excerpt of a clip where the counsel to Kogi State government spoke on the matter. Please just hang in there.
The suit before the court is to challenge the powers of certain institutions set up by law to deal with issues relating to, stealing, to corruption, to resources of the state in the federal system of government. So that is the long and short of the case in court. In this regard, we are looking at institutions of the federal government set up to investigate resources and funds belonging to states. ICPC, FCC, whether indeed in the federal system of government, the current arrangement that we have.
Dr. Misbah, you had my intro on this matter and the Council of Kogi. So what do you make of this case? It was a mere United Nations Convention against corruption that was reduced into the EFCC Act, and so they are seeking redress. That's Kogi State, and they have been joined by other states as well. Your take on the matter?
Well, let me start by saying, with due respect to those who fight those other case, which I think is coming up at the Supreme Court on the 22nd of October, that is next week, Tuesday or so, I think that they're just, I'm not allowed to speculate on what the likely outcome may be, but we are allowed to at least second guess based on the precedent that we have on similar matters. And I will start by saying that the ICPC Act was similarly challenged in the same manner over a decade ago. And the case was the case of Attorney General of Ondo State and Attorney General of the Federation. the Supreme Court decided in that case that, well, the power of the National Assembly to make law, to govern the federation, you know, it's not limited by the fact that Nigeria is a federation or that the federating unit also have powers to enact law to combat crime in their state. In summary, the Supreme Court decided in that case that the ICPC Act was constitutional. Now, in this current case, I've taken my time to read through some of their facts as we could... Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, as we could glean from the newspaper, and for me, really, I think it's a case that is founded on a very weak foundation. Now, when they say that the EFCC Act is a reproduction, if I can use that word, of the UN Convention Against Corruption, that is not exactly correct, and that is not true. And even if that is the case, the question is that Section 12 of the 1999 Constitution actually gives the National Assembly powers to make law for the entire federation. And this is why under our Constitution, you know, the legislative powers to make law all over Nigeria, you know, is classified into exclusive jurisdiction, if you like, or exclusive list, where only the National Assembly can make law, you know, and then you have the concurrent list, you know, where other council. So where the National Assembly has made law over a subject, and in this particular case, you know, anti-corruption, the state does not have any jurisdiction again. And there is nothing under our Constitution that bars the National Assembly, in my opinion, you know, from making law with a national coverage, as we have seen with the ICPC and now the EFCC Act they are challenging. Section 12 of the 1999 Constitution talks about domestication of international treaty. That is, if Nigeria enters into a treaty, which is an international agreement with other nations, before you can enforce that treaty locally, you have to enact them into our local law. Can we sincerely say that is the case with the EFCC Establishment Act of 2003? The answer is no. And I give one example.
Yeah.
One of the laws that Nigeria has domesticated in our recent history is the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which is otherwise known as Banjul Charter. Okay? Now, when Nigeria ratified that treaty at the African Union level, they simply replicated the same law under our law, okay? So that is when you literally adopted your international treaty and then domesticate them in your local law. I've gone through the provisions of the EFCC Act. There is nothing under the Act that shows that it was a replication of any UN Convention Against Corruption. Yes, you can argue that the setting up the ICPC or EFCC was influenced by international pressure. That is fine, and that is correct, and that is valid. Yeah. But the fact that this institution's establishment, you know, was influenced by foreign pressure or our obligation internationally does not necessarily mean that we copy and pasted, you know, our international treaty. That is not correct. So that is a fact upon which they have rested their case. Yes, and the reason why I suspect, and very strongly, that that case would fail like the challenge to the ICPC Act over 10 years ago. There is nothing in the EFCC Establishment Act that requires the concurrence of the state houses of assembly to become a law of the federation. It was a law properly enacted by the National Assembly, exercising their competence, you know, to enact law for the whole federation.
Yes, if I may brought in, because of time, among the relief that is being sought is that a declaration that the federal government of Nigeria, through the NFIU, that's the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, or any agency of the federal government lacks the power to issue any directive, guideline, advisory, or any instrument, howsoever, called for the administration and management of funds belonging to Kogi State of Nigeria or any local government area of Kogi State, and that a declaration that the EFCC, the NFIU, or any agency of the federal government of Nigeria cannot investigate, requisition document, invite, or arrest anyone with respect to offenses arising from or touching on the administration and management of funds belonging to Kogi State of Nigeria or any local government area of Kogi State. Many persons will say, wait a minute, what exactly is the force? Apart from the briefing, this relief that has been stored, the legal briefing, any person will easily say, is it because of Yaya Bello that you are doing this? And by the way, where's the morality? We know maybe morality is not the same thing as law, but why are they doing this at this time? And you have many states that have joined them as well. What do they have in their cupboard?
Well, it is obvious, you know, that I think there's a popular saying in Nigeria that when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. And that is, I think that is what is playing back. You know, when I first read about the case, the first thing I did was to run through the names of the state. And I was not really surprised that Kogi, you know, is prominent or was prominent on that list as the, you know. So for me, really, I think all of this clearly suggests, you know, the underlying motives. And like you said, well, morality and the law may not be the same, and motive may not really matter in this case. But one thing that is certain is this. I don't see the likelihood of success of this, I would say, claim. I don't see it. Because as I said, the National Assembly is by the Constitution of Nigeria empowered to make law for the federation. And you can look at examples from other federations around the world. Is it in Canada? Is it in the US? Is it in India? In a federation, there are usually federal laws. And federal laws have national coverage, even in a federation. So the states cannot claim that money allocated to them from the federation accounts cannot be questioned by a federal institution like the EFCC or the ICPC or the NFIU. So I think it's quite clear here, the mischief that these states are up to. They don't want to be accountable. And the question is that what will be the alternative? The alternative is for them to say, this is our fund, we can investigate ourselves. I mean, from the little things we have seen without the handle independent electoral institution at the state level, and now all the states in Nigeria conduct local government election to, you know, impose their puppet and make sure their party won all the seats. Can we really trust the states in Nigeria to fight corruption internally? The answer is no. Our states have shown to lack that credibility and capacity. And I think this is why institutions like EFCC, ICPC, INEC, you know, are quite important, as we have seen in other federations, as I've said. So in a federation, it is consistent with standard practice to have federal agency, federal police, federal this, federal that, you know, for cases or institutions like this. At any rate, they receive allocation from federation account, but then they don't want to be accounted to Nigerian institution. I think they are just jokers, and I'm not sorry to say that. So I don't see the case heading to any bay of success. And I see the Supreme Court, you know, following their precedent in the case of Attorney General of Ondo State and others, and Attorney General of Federation, where, as I said, you know, they ruled or decided that the ICPC Act was constitutional and that the National Assembly had the power to make law to fight corruptions all over Nigeria. So for me, really, I think it's just a distraction for the moment. And by next week, Tuesday or thereabout, or whenever the Supreme Court decide, we will know, you know, where this is headed. But I don't see them succeed. I think it's just a joke.
All right, Dr. Misbah Alamu-Lateef, lawyer, law lecturer at the University of All United Kingdom. We thank you for your time on our show this morning, your takes and submissions. We appreciate them. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. My pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. Have for yourself a good day. All right. That's the conversation this morning, Femi. And, you know, with what Dr. Lateef ended with, saying you cannot feed from a table and not want to account, be accountable to that particular table. I mean, what the governors, state governments want to do, you collect from FAC, but you do not want to be accountable
it's more like, once you have given us, is our money. We decide to do it. Don't ask us any question again. You don't have the right to ask us.
And of course, this actually should be an eye-opener to many citizens and know what exactly is priority to their state governors and the state government. That will be all for the show this morning. Watch a recap of the show on our YouTube channel at Western Spring TV. You can also connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Western Spring Television. My name is Evelyn Ohiola. Stay tuned for Spring Trends coming right after this broadcast.
And of course, my parting shot today will be on the landing point of our last discussion with Dr. Latif that says you're feeding from a table, just like Evelyn said. You are being given a food, a money to administer, and you are saying the person that is giving you the law of the land should stay away. Whatever you get is your business. There is no right for anybody to ask you how you spend it. I think this speaks to our citizens to be more alive and active in calling for responsibility, because when you hear, and this is not just about Kogi State, 14 or 15 other states are involved in this as well, to say we are joining you, EFCC should stand down on our matter, let us do these things ourselves. How we spend it is none of your business. Your guess is as good as mine. We should make informed decisions, because all these things also come back to us. Femi Ojo is my name. Please stay alive in anything that you do and everything. We'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye.
Fewer than 400 elephants are surviving in this country today, and they're still being poached for their ivory. Elephants can be a major draw for our tourism if we protect them. So please tell your family and friends, report all wildlife crimes, and stop the sale of ivory, because protecting nature protects all of us.
Television gives everyone an image, but radio gives birth to 1 million images in 1 million brains. People say video killed the radio star, but here in Osun State, radio is very much alive and thriving. It is not just about tuning in. It is about tapping into the endless possibilities of the human imagination.
Welcome to Rave 91.7 FM, where the airwaves come alive with a symphony of voices, music, and ideas.
Nestled in the heart of Oshogbo, this station isn't just a broadcaster, it's a storyteller, a magician weaving dreams in the minds of its listeners. As Peggy Nonan aptly puts it, radio allows us to paint our own pictures, to create our own words with every spoken word and every note played.
Inside the walls of Rave FM, the magic happens. From the crackling energy of morning talk shows to the soul-stirring melodies of afternoon playlist, every moment is an invitation to explore, to dream, and to connect.
Whether it's news, music, or lively discussions, Rave 91.7 FM is more than just a radio station. It's a companion, a confidant, and a catalyst for change in the community. Fast forward 7 years from the birth of Rave 91.7 FM, a beacon of youth culture and innovation, and we'll find ourselves just a couple of days away from a momentous occasion, the birthday of Western Spring Television, WSTV. With hyper-local reach and language, WSTV speaks directly to its audience in a 60-40 mix of Yoruba and English languages, ensuring that everyone feels represented and included.
Built on a tested and trusted system, WSTV upholds the value of truth and integrity, serving as a beacon of objectivity in a sea of media noise.
We reflect on the journey that brought us here, from humble beginnings to a trusted source of information and inspiration. WSTV stands as a testament to the power of media to inform, educate, and empower. So join us as we continue to break barriers, challenge norms, and pave the way for a brighter, more inclusive media landscape. Western Spring Television, where every story matters and every voice is heard.
Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1909, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi.
All right, welcome on board. It's Spring Trends right here on Western Spring Television, and we speak to things trending on social media. What is trending, who is trending, where it is trending, and reactions on social media. Like I always tell you, keep tweeting, keep commenting, keep putting your own opinion and views up there. You never can tell when we get to read it from our own big screen. My name is Evelyn Ohiola, welcoming you especially, and of course Femi Ojo is here. Welcome on board, Femi.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
All right, let's just get right straight into business. My very first story today, we heard, from the World Bank that Nigeria would have to sustain its economic reforms. I mean, this current economic reforms that a lot of experts, a lot of economists are faulting, the World Bank is saying that would have to sustain it for the next 10 to 15 years before we can see, changes, before the economy can be prominent globally. Let's take a look at this video. We'll come back to take reaction.
On the right course, on the correct course. But this is only the beginning. Nigeria will need to stay the course for at least another 10 to 15 years to transform its economy. So I don't know if you're agreeing with me or if you're disagreeing with me. If it does that, it will transform its economy and it will become an engine of growth in sub-Saharan Africa, and it will help to transform sub-Saharan Africa.
Of course, you can feel the reaction of people, and the people there are not just even ordinary Nigerians. They are people that matter in that particular room. And when, Mr. Jill said that, are you agreeing with me or disagreeing? And you can feel the response. When they say, there's a particular joke, or is it a video, that I said, do you subtract, do you attract, or I don't know how that joke goes, but then it speaks to the fact that a lot of people really may not be okay with these current economic reforms. Let's just quickly take reactions. I_Gab, I_Amgab says, World Bank and IMF, those are the weapons fashioned against Africa. And Marshall Mast says, please show me one country that has improved its economy using either World Bank or IMF policy. D_Val_1 says, I beg, make this World Bank and IMF leave us alone with advices. They always put us backwards. They will never caution the government on spending taxpayers' money on necessary things, and they will request for loan. IMF and World Bank will still give them. Nothing will change in this country if corruption did not stop or limited. Co_Mayor_knows says, God, I am irritated listening to this because these people do not have our best interest at heart, and nothing they are doing has helped our economy. So, Femi, I'll just come right into the studio. Femi, do you agree with what that gentleman from the World Bank said? That we have to stay on course. Consistency is key.
Which course?
Consistency is key. For us to see changes, we have to stay on course for the next 10 to 15 years.
If no be say I know I know what you are supposed to tell.
What is supposed to tell?
Which economic reform? You know, some of these Bretton Woods institutions, IMF, World Bank, somebody said it, they are weapons fashioned against, developing nations.
Yeah.
And these are the issues as well. He said, do you agree with me? I'm sure many of those persons, for their mind, they say they play. No. Some of them will agree with him because they might be beneficiaries of whatever policies. Nigerians know if that man, if he know what they do, let him go to Oshodi. Let him go to Karanamuda. Let him come back to any of those states where the streets they attend and say, this thing where government they do, now go endure for 15 years. He may no carry escort. If actually go live complete. We they follow talk this one.
On,
which reform is
we're
it?
not violent people.
No, not violent. Leave it complete. I mean, my bill is closed now. So these are the issues. I'm not sure Nigerians will agree with that. What to reform? Where are we heading to? Where have we picked from? Where are we right now? These are the issues. Are we making progress? Really actionable, measurable progress? World Bank, they see progress. Nigerians know they see them. Who suppose they see them?
They're seeing the bigger picture.
Does he live here?
They say what the elders sit.
Who is elder?
Sitting down on the mountain. Sitting down on the mat. When a young person goes to the Mount Kilimanjaro, you will not see.
The elderly World Bank, and that man will come. The elderly pass who they sell pepper for junction there.
The elderly.
What elderly? What is he living here?
They are the bigger brothers.
I bet may no infuriate Nigerians.
Of course.
Now people wait if you follow talking, they follow talking.
Are you here when he was asking that? Do you agree or disagree?
You see some of them not giggling.
Most of them say
you are who?
Agree. Agree or disagree. Agree. Not whether it's
or
this.
Either is or this.
All right. Of course, that has actually generated conversations in different quarters, controversy here and there, and people are asking what the IMF, the World Bank, what they are seeing that we Nigerians are not seeing, because things are not really rosy in this part of the world. We'll move on to our next story. This one is still on the economy. The Nigerian National Assembly is considering a bill proposing an increase in the value-added tax, VAT, from 7.5% to 10%. Remember, it was at 5% at some point. It was raised to 7.5%. Now they're proposing for it to go to 10%. I mean, this story reminds me of that statement by Mr. Preston saying we will reduce the purchasing power of the people, widen the tax net, and make more taxpayers to come in. A lot of people heard that and they thought probably Mr. Preston was joking. And it's true to his words, because we have had increment in taxes. And remember that there is a tax bill being proposed in the National Assembly, and that has actually generated debate. Even within the assembly, the committees that invited the FIRS boss. But then let's move on to reactions. Miller Shield on Twitter, on X, says, why 10%? 20% will be better. Miller Shield, how far now? How far now? All right, I'm sure he's been sarcastic. Cedar says, we go use all our salary, enter transport, buy fuel, and use the rest to pay tax. By the time this government is done with us, we go wise by force. And Cheesy Vicent says, who did we offend? Who did we offend? Who did we offend? Well, let's see. Your take very quickly, Femi.
I think, I understand the frustration of Nigerians when the word value-added tax is mentioned, and this is the issue. The thing is, it doesn't really affect everybody.
Yeah.
Actually, it doesn't affect it. There is tax, there is VAT, value added tax is what we are talking about. So mostly they are, okay, by definition, it's a consumption tax
Exactly.
that is levied on the value added at each stage of a product's production and distribution. So most of the times there are things you pay for when you buy luxury goods, when you buy some of these things.
The consumer will pay more.
Yeah, I understand, but then it's not like it's not everybody that pays VAT. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
At every instance. That's what I mean. So get me right. VAT is not paid every day. It's not your regular, you buy Momoy VAT, you buy what? VAT, you buy this one. Even if it's consumption. Luxury goods, when you check into 5-star hotels, any service you are given there, you pay for it. Some of these things that are taken to some of those choice places, lounges, you pay for it. So it's not like everything. But as somebody say, it's like 5% is not, Kuku take 20.
That 10 is too small.
But I think the nation needs money. But the issue is the money that will be gotten, how is it spent? Nigerians will not be happy that your VAT is being used to change tire of Cadillac. Your VAT is now being used to change people's SUVs.
Yeah.
To buy private jets. And it looks like they are not really being part of it. That's the issue. To pay, yes, we don't really like it from, they call it Owori those days. The moment the tax guys, when we were younger, people will be doing we absconding all of it. Maybe it's not a thing, but then you can only make a case for people to pay more when they are seeing what is being done.
Yeah, because people are their own governments. They provide their own electricity, they provide their own roads, provide their own security, provide their own water. So what exactly is the government providing
that's
that
the
you
issue.
want?
You go back transformer.
That's the argument.
The moment they put power on that
you buy your meter, you buy your transformer.
IBDC go say na they get.
You still pay for wiring into your house.
Even,
it's
if your transformer spoil, now go still pay money to go and call these people.
It's a whole lot.
And these are some of the issues. So when people see value, they call it value added tax. Is the tax that people are paying. Where is the value for that? I think that should be the question. Government should show workings. Don't be living large. And you are telling the people to keep paying. Either you are visit a lounge, it's my business. I visit a luxury hotel, it's my business. So if you are cutting some of these things from what I'm paying for, I should see it as well. I think that's.
All right, we move on to the next story this morning. It is an irritating story, I should say. When I saw the video, I was really vexed in my spirit. Now, this story is about an officer, a sergeant who is named Abraham Uzobo, who removed a 17-year-old female suspect from the cell, took her to the admin office and had sex with her, had carnal knowledge with her. The charge room officer who noticed the cell key was not with her rushed to the cell and discovered the female suspect that was detained for receiving a stolen property was not in the cell. She was scared. She thought there was a jailbreak. She started searching everywhere. When she got to the office, she caught our officer in the act with the girl on the couch. She brought out her phone and was recording, and the charge officer did not report what happened to the appropriate authority. She collected a bribe of 45,000 naira from the sergeant to cover the crime. The next day at around 4 a.m., she called the sergeant again to either pay her an additional 1 million naira or she would post the video on social media. The sergeant refused to pay and she posted the video. Both the sergeant and the charge room officer have been arrested, and Nigerians are calling for justice for the 17-year-old girl. Let's watch the video. We'll come back. I mean, it's a very short clip. We'll come back and take reaction.
What I no go do? Now you want put me for trouble, Abi? Trouble. Now you want put me for trouble.
All right, that's an amateur video of what happened, and that's the charge room officer taking a video of that particular situation when it happened. And, you know, naturally, ordinarily, you would think she would report to the appropriate authority, considering the fact that this suspect was put in your care, and this suspect is even a female. You are also a female. So you decided to take a bribe to cover up the tracks of your own fellow officer, and you went on with your blackmailing game, requested for 1 million naira, and just because it didn't pay, you decided to, you know, release the video on social media. And there are questions as to why a 17-year-old girl would be detained, you know, in the cell for a long time. I mean, she's underage.
A minor, yeah.
She's a minor. Let's just take reaction, Femi, before you say something. Ashake Alago says, let's start from why you have to detain a 17-year-old girl since the official adulthood age is 18. Sorry, Olateju says, Jesus, this country is something else. The poor girl. And PJ Beauty Brand says, corrupt on everywhere, every angle. God help us in this country. And Fala's Glamour Short says, is this police that they call our friends just disgusting to the core? And really, it is disgusting because we've had, you know, a lot of suspects call out police officers, you know, to say, when I was detained, these guys will come to the cell, pick us up, have sex with us, take us back there. We were just like, you know, they are normal call girls, to put it that way. They don't have to pay, but then we just have to do what we have to do. This is disgusting,
even worse
actually.
than a call girl thing, because you get to pay a call girl.
This rape, actually.
This rape.
It's rape.
Actually,
it's against their consent.
Against their will.
Yes. But how do you react to this, Femi? Because really, this is vexing my spirit.
I think it's wrong enough. All police stations should be arrested. All of them. From the DPO to the IPO to every PO available in that place. It's a shame. The recorder, the offender, the recordee, the whole compound, even the gate man in that particular place, it's a shame, actually. Yeah. And maybe this is just one of the nonsense that happens. Because if these things has not happened, that particular lady that has been molested is always warned against the institution.
Yeah, the institution.
Even if actually she's freed at the end of the day, or she's whatever has her freedom, how will she come to the world and say, this person did this thing to me? It's a shame. And I think the police command should take it off. Seriously. Show them, parade them. Not just tell us that they're investigating, no.
We actually would follow up on that case and also get more information to that case. It's disgusting, it's irritating, because it's coming from someone that was supposed to protect. When the one that is supposed to, the protector, now becomes the tormentor. It's really sad. Let's move to our next and final story this morning. And someone actually put out a post on X, you know, stating that please, can anyone forward this to the appropriate agency in Lagos State to avoid this looming disaster? They removed the roofing of the original building and added 2 more floors. It's on Ashogbon Street, Isale, Lagos Island, and we all understand how buildings, you know, have been collapsing, going down in Lagos State. Let's watch this video. We'll come back to take reaction.
Ẹ wo orin tó lò sáàrin yìí, kí ló dé?
And of course, that a government official responded to that, saying that the structure has been removed, and we appreciate the swift action, because you never can tell what will happen.
What will happen?
You know, adding 2 more floors to the original plan. This is what happened, because you want to make more money, quick gains. Let's take reactions. Simply_Butiana says, unfortunately, these landlords do not stay in those houses. It's the innocent tenants that will now suffer for it. Ancestral Sparks says, this building should be taken down and the owner plus the engineer should be arrested. Why risking people's lives? It is the foundation of a building that determines the edifice. You cannot put a 3-floor building on a foundation of 1 floor now. One doesn't need to be an expert to know this. Everybody is just doing as they like in Nigeria. And GP Kimonoware says, others may see this guy as a bad person, but bro, you need to be awarded for saving lives of people you do not even know. My good God will bless you. I mean, talking to the whistleblower now. Prince Betty Teep says, before you blame the feds, first blame the owner who refused to obey town planning and approved structure. If country must change, it starts like this. And, you know, someone during the week that we had spoke to responsible leaders and also responsible citizens. If we are demanding for our leaders to be responsible, we as citizens also must play our part to be responsible in our ways.
I think that was a death trap averted, a disaster averted. He speaks to, you know, the people that we talk about the government. They are still people. Imagine this kind of a developer or landlord being in charge of a local government, being in charge of a state. He will do far more worse. You just put the structure there, and it's just like somebody said, you don't have to be an engineer to know that this cannot work. You see some of those pipes in less than 1 year, or even under construction, everything collapses, people die. Somebody said some of these landlords, they don't live there. They only, and you know, it's very terrible for people. I've been at Lagos Island before. That is Aleko, is a notorious place. And by the way, it has, waterlogged kind of topography.
Yeah.
So you must have even done a lot to even have a story building. Talk less of having just 3 stories.
That's like 4
and that building wasn't, the foundation wasn't meant for that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of buildings in Isaleko, Lagos Island. In fact, if you raise your head, you just be seeing buildings like this that are not supposed to be so. It's good that Tokumbo, that's the Commissioner for Environment in Lagos State, has responded, but they don't have to wait for whistleblower. It's good that somebody has put it up. There are town planners that are culpable.
Yeah.
Some of these houses that are passed, people approve the building plans, and these are some of it. And this is not just about Lagos. Every state, every local government should take responsibility so that we don't have these disasters on our hands.
Of course, I agree with you totally, Femi. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
My pleasure.
And to our esteemed viewers, thank you for being a part of our world. We make a return tomorrow for the Thursday edition of Spring Trends. Until then, have yourself a good and productive day. My name is Evelyn Ohiola.
Gbẹ̀bíró kílé mọ́ dahoro kọ́ọ̀dẹ́ má dìbò sí. Láṣìgbé ètò yìí kalẹ̀ láti lè jẹ́ kóníkálùkù fi ṣe òdiwọ̀n ìdílé wọn. Òtítọ́ ọbẹ̀ ni pé kò sí ìdílé kan tí ò ní ìpèníjà àti ẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n àtẹ́lẹwọ́ ẹni la fi ń tún ẹni ṣe. Àti oníkálùkù bá kọ sí ìpèníjà náà ìdílé yóò sọ bí ìdílé yóò ṣe rí. Gbẹ̀bíró ká finúkonú ká fi kùnlùkùn pẹ̀lú àwọn lọ́kọláya lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan lórí ètò. Níbẹ̀ lọ́mọ Afọlábí ó ti mọ tàkò tó béèrè sí wọn. Láláì fìkan pé méjì lórí ọ̀rọ̀ tó ń dá òwúhọ́wù sílẹ̀ nínú ìdílé. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì làwọn àlejò náà yóò mọ jẹ́ ká mọ ọ̀nà tí wọ́n ń gbé gbà sílé wọn ò fi dàrú tí fi ń tò. Gbẹ̀bíró ẹ mọ pàdé Múyìwá Àfọlábí lórí ètò yìí ní gbogbo ọjọ́ àbámẹ́ta láago 8 òwúrọ̀ tí àtúntẹ̀ rẹ̀ ó sì tún máa wá láàrin ọ̀sẹ̀ ní ìkànnì móhùnmáwòrán Western Spring Television ìkànnì 150 lórí StarTime. Gbẹ̀bíró tọ̀sẹ̀ yìí ó máa yàtọ̀ ni kò ní yàtọ̀ fọ́.
Ìlú Abẹ́òkúta gẹ́gẹ́ bí orúkọ rẹ̀, ìlú tí a tẹ̀dó sábẹ́ Olúmọ. Ó jẹ́ ibùgbé àwọn ẹ̀yà Ẹ̀gbá àti Òwu tó jìjàǹgbara lọ́wọ́ Aláàfin Ọ̀yọ́ àtijọ́. Láàrin ọdún 1775 sí 1780 ni akọni Lísàbí Àgbòǹgbò Àkàlà léwájú wọn láti dáwọ́ sísan ìṣákọ́lẹ̀ fún Aláàfin dúró. Ìdí nìyí tí àwọn ọmọ Abẹ́òkúta ṣe ń pe ara wọn ní ọmọ Ẹ̀gbá mọ Lísàbí Àgbòǹgbò Àkàlà. Ìlú Abẹ́òkúta jẹ́ ìlú àwọn ọ̀làjú àti aláfẹ́. Ọ̀pọ̀ àwọn òyìnbó aláwọ̀ funfun ló fi bẹ̀ ṣe ìlú, pàápàá lásìkò ìjọba amúnisìn. Ṣọ́ọ̀ṣì àkọ́kọ́ nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà ní St. Peters tó wà ní Aké. Ilé ìwòsàn àkọ́kọ́ nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà Sacred Heart Hospital ìlú Abẹ́òkúta ló wà. Aláké lorúkọ oyè ọba ìlú Ẹ̀gbá. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni Òkè Olúmọ wà níbùdó tó tẹ́jú láti lè fi rí gbogbo ìlú Abẹ́òkúta ní orí òkè náà. Àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n àti onímọ̀ púpọ̀ ló jẹ́ ọmọ bíbí ìlú Abẹ́òkúta. Àwọn bíi ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Wọlé Ṣóyínká, ọ̀jìnmí akọni obìnrin ní Fúnmiláyọ̀ Ransom Kuti àtọ̀pọ̀ àwọn míì. Iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ àti àdìrẹ níṣẹ́ tó gbayì nílùú Abẹ́òkúta. Ẹ̀gbá mọ Lísàbí.
Nínú àwọn ìran àti ẹ̀yà tí ìbejì ti wọ́pọ̀ sí jùlọ lágbàáyé ni ìran Yorùbá jẹ́. Yorùbá sì máa ń ṣàjọyọ̀ àwọn ìbejì gẹ́gẹ́ bí olú ọmọ. Pàápàá nínú àwọn ìpèdè tó ń ṣe àfihàn oríkì ìbejì, ẹ ó máa gbọ́ wíníwíní lójú orogún, èjìwòrò lójú ìyá ẹ̀, ọ̀bẹ kì í ṣe bẹ́kìṣà, ó bẹ́ sílé alákìísà ó sa alákìísà donígbaṣọ àfijù ọmọ tí gbàdọ̀bálẹ̀ bàbá ọ̀kan bá bí èjì ló wọlé tọ̀ mí wá. Yorùbá nígbàgbọ́ wípé orúkọ ẹni nìjánu ẹni, bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wọ́n sì gbàgbọ́ pé orúkọ ọmọ a máa ru ọmọ. Ìdí nìyí tí Yorùbá fi máa ń ronú jinlẹ̀ kí wọ́n tó sọmọ lórúkọ. Ètò akọ́mọlédè ló ń dé sójú ìwòran yín láti iléeṣẹ́ móhùnmáwòrán WSTV ìkànnì 150 channel 190 lórí StarTimes. Folúṣọ́ Ayaolúwagbémiga, ìyá ìjọ pèdèpèdè ìyá akọ́mọlédè ló kọ tèmi. Yorùbá dùn púpọ̀, Yorùbá ò lè kú, Yorùbá ò lè parun. Tiwa làṣà, tiwa lèdè, tiwa nìṣẹ̀ṣe akọ́mọlédè.
Àbújá ni olú ìlú orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́. Ọjọ́ 12 oṣù 12 ọdún 1991 ni wọ́n gbé ibùjókòó agbára Nàìjíríà kúrò nílùú Èkó lọ sílùú Àbújá lásìkò ìṣèjọba ológun ọ̀gágun fẹ̀yìntì Ibrahim Babangida. Ìlú Àbújá ní ìlú kẹjọ tí èrò pọ̀ sí jùlọ nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà, ó sì jẹ́ ìlú olódi tó wà ní àárín gbùngbùn. Gbogbo àwọn ilé-iṣẹ́ àti àjọ ìjọba kọ̀ọ̀kan ló ní olú ọ́fíìsì wọn nílùú Àbújá, gẹ́gẹ́ bó ṣe jẹ́ pé ibẹ̀ gan ni ibùjókòó agbára ìṣàkóso ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Lọ́dún 2003 ni àjọ Commonwealth gbé ìpàdé wọn wá síbẹ̀. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni àjọ olókoòwò nílẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ ṣe lọ́dún 2014. Kódà lọ́dún 2016 àjọ tó ń rí sí ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn ọmọdé ìyẹn UNESCO gbà á gẹ́gẹ́ bí ibùdó ìkẹ́kọ̀ọ́ wọn. Díẹ̀ lára àwọn ibùdó tó gbajúgbajà nílùú Àbújá ni àpáta agbára Aso Rock, ilé aṣòfin àpapọ̀, ilé aṣojúṣòfin ilẹ̀ yìí, àpáta Zuma Rock, Millennium Park, báńkì àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà CBN, mọ́ṣáláṣí àpapọ̀ àti ibùdó ilé ìjọsìn àpapọ̀ àwọn kìrìsìtẹ́nì. Ẹkùn ìdìbò 6 ló wà nílùú Àbújá: Abaji, Buhari, Gwagwalada, Kuje, Kwali àti Abuja Municipal. Kílìṣì tó jẹ́ ohun ìpanu tí wọ́n fi ẹran pèsè ló jẹ́ oúnjẹ tó wọ́pọ̀ tí gbogbo èèyàn sì nífẹ̀ẹ́ sí nílùú Àbújá. Ó jẹ́ ibùdó ìsinmi fún ọ̀pọ̀ àwọn arìnrìn-àjò láti ẹkùn kọ̀ọ̀kan nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà nítorí pé àárín gbùngbùn ló wà. Ìlú Àbújá rèé o, ibùdó agbára ìṣàkóso ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà, ògo ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀.
Atótó arére.
Kò dé má gbọ́ ìròyìn. Èkó Lagos, Èkó akéte ìlú ọgbọ́n, Èkó akéte ìlú ìmọ̀, ọmọ ọlọ́gbọ́n dorí ẹja mú, àwọn òmùgọ̀ àdìímú nírù. Ẹni dẹ́kọ̀ tí ò gbọ́n, ọgbọ́n rẹ̀ dọ̀run alákejì. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí àrọ́bá, ẹni tó tẹ ìṣẹ́ridó tó sì kọ́kọ́ gbé ibẹ̀ lọ́dún 1699 ló jẹ́ ọdẹ tí orúkọ rẹ̀ ń jẹ́ Ògúnfúnminíre, ọmọ ọba ìlú Ilé Ifẹ̀ ní í ṣe. Ó máa ń ṣọdẹ lọ síbẹ̀ láti Ifẹ̀, ó sì pàgọ́ tó ti máa ń sinmi ṣáájú kó tún tó lọ bẹ ilé rẹ̀ wò. Nígbà tó yá, àwọn ọdẹ mìíràn wá darapọ̀ mọ́ láti ṣọdẹ. Nínú igbó yìí ni wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní ṣọdẹ tí wọ́n sì ń pọ̀ sí pẹ̀lú àwọn ènìyàn wọn. Báyìí ni wọ́n ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní tàn kálẹ̀ tó fi dé gbogbo ibi tí Èkó fẹ̀ dé lónìí. Ìlú Èkó, ìlú ńlá. Ìlú Èkó yìí ni ibùdó agbára ìṣàkóso ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà wà tẹ́lẹ̀ rí, pàápàá lásìkò ìjọba amúnisìn ṣáájú ọdún 1991 tí wọ́n gbé lọ sílùú Àbújá. Èkó àdèlé ọmọ agun àgẹ̀rẹ̀, Èkó ọmọ afíjú wọjà arìngbẹ́ndẹ́kẹ́, ọ̀bùn wọjà páṣíọ̀ṣíọ̀, ẹ̀yọ̀ ní bàbá Èkó, àríjó ṣe bí ọba. Èkó ọmọ odò tí ò ṣeé yájú sí, Èkó arómi sá lẹ́gbẹ́lẹ́gbẹ́. Ìlú Ìbàdàn. Ìlú Ìbàdàn ni olú ìlú àti ìlú tí ó tóbi jù ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ tó wà ní ẹkùn ìwọ̀ oòrùn gúúsù ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. kò dín ní èèyàn bíi mílíọ̀nù 6 tó ń gbé nígboro ìlú Ìbàdàn nìkan ṣoṣo. Odù Ifá ọ̀sẹ̀ méjì ni àwọn Yorùbá gbàgbọ́ pé ó tẹ ìlú Ìbàdàn dó. Àwọn ọmọ ìlú Ìbàdàn jẹ́ akíkanjú, wọ́n fẹ́ràn ìdàgbàsókè, ọ̀làjú ni wọ́n, àwọn baba ńlá wọn sì jẹ́ jagunjagun. Àbájọ tí a fi máa ń gbọ́ nínú oríkì wọn pé Ìbàdàn Mèsì Ọ̀gọ̀, nílé Olúyọ̀lé, ìlú Ògúnmọ́lá olódògbò kẹ̀rí lójú ogun, Ìbàdàn ọmọ àjòrò sàn, ọmọ ajẹ̀gbínyó, ọmọ àfikàrà ń fọ́ orí mu. Olúbàdàn lórúkọ oyè ọba ilẹ̀ Ìbàdàn. Máyẹ̀ Okùnadé ló kọ́kọ́ jẹ baálẹ̀ nìbàdàn. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìlú ńlá, ọ̀pọ̀ àwọn iléeṣẹ́ àti àjọ ńláńlá ló wà nílùú Ìbàdàn. Ìbàdàn tó gbonílé tó gbé àlejò, ọmọ Ìbàdàn kí ni sóò.
Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ nǹkan ló ń kojú àwọn ará àdúgbò, àwọn ará àwùjọ tí ohun ò dẹ̀ dókè. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìnira, ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìyà làwọn èèyàn ń kojú rẹ̀ ní àdúgbò. Ojú ọ̀nà tó kù díẹ̀ káàtó, iná ọba tó mẹ́ẹ̀ tó ń ṣe ségesège, àwọn tó ń hu ìwà àbàṣejẹ́ obì tí ń sun lẹ́rùn, àti àwọn nǹkan tí ò tí ì dé tí gbọ́ ìjọba. Ṣé wọ́n ní etí ọba nílé etí ọba lóko, èèyàn náà ló ń jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀. Òun náà ló jẹ́ kí ìkànnì Western Spring Television pé ètò tí ó jẹ́ kẹ́yìn ara lé ẹ̀yin ará àwùjọ kẹ́lẹ́ mọ́ sọ bí tí bàtà bá ti ń ta yín lẹ́sẹ̀ fún àwọn aláṣẹ ìjọba. Ohun tẹ́ ẹ ṣe ni wípé ẹ mú fóònù yín o, ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yín, ẹ dábù rẹ̀, ẹ mọ̀ yá ní gbọ́rọ̀, ẹ dábù rẹ̀, ẹ ṣe àkàálẹ̀ ohun tó ń fẹ́ àmójútó ìjọba, ohun tó ń fẹ́ àmójútó àwọn aláṣẹ, ohun tó ń fẹ́ àmójútó àwọn elétò ìlera, àwọn elétò ààbò àti àwọn míì tí ọ̀rọ̀ kàn. Ẹ má jẹ́ kí fọ́nrán náà ìyẹn fídíò tẹ́ máa ṣe àkálẹ̀ rẹ̀ kó mọ̀ ju ìṣẹ́jú 2 tàbí 3 lọ. Ẹ má fi ṣọwọ́ sí wa ní orí WhatsApp lórí ẹ̀rọ 0803 865 1049 0803 865 1049. Ẹ jẹ́ kí gbogbo àwọn fọ́nrán yín, àwọn àwòrán yín kó máa wọlé. Orí ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí, ẹ̀yin gangan lẹ jẹ́ ojú ẹlẹ́rìí. Ohun táwọn èèyàn nílò, ohun tó ń jẹ àwọn èèyàn láwùjọ níyà, ilé tí ò nílé ìgbọ̀nsẹ̀, ibi tí ò níbi tó ti ń dẹ ẹ̀gbin nù, tó wá jẹ́ pé ẹ̀gbin wọn ní àwọn ará àdúgbò, àwọn aráàlú lára, gbogbo ìlú ẹ̀. Ẹ fi tó àwọn aláṣẹ létí ohun tẹ́ ẹ nílò ní agbègbè yín, ẹ jẹ́ kí àwọn aláṣẹ mọ̀. Orúkọ mi ni Adéyẹmí Ọlábọ̀dé, èmi ni atọ́kùn ètò Ojú Ẹlẹ́rìí lórí Western Spring Television, ìkànnì 150 ní gbogbo ọjọ́ Ajé láago 2:30 ọ̀sán.
New York nílùú ńlá tó tóbi jù nílẹ̀ Amẹ́ríkà. Kódà iye ènìyàn tó wà níbẹ̀ ló fi ìdá méjì ju ti ìlú Los Angeles lọ. Ó jẹ́ ibùdó fún oríṣiríṣi àṣà, ìgbafẹ́, iṣẹ́ ọnà, ìmọ̀ ẹ̀rọ, òṣèlú, ẹ̀kọ́, ọrọ̀ ajé kódà tó fi máa rẹ́ ìdárayá. New York yìí ló gbàlejò ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ olùdókòwò kárí ayé tó sì fẹsẹ̀ múlẹ̀ gidi gan ni. Ìdí nìyí tí àwọn kan fi máa ń pè é ní olú ìlú orílẹ̀-èdè àgbáyé. Ohun ìdámọ̀ tó gbajúgbajà jù ní New York ní ère òmìnira Statue of Liberty, eléyìí tó ń ṣàfihàn bí ìlú náà ṣe fàyè gba onílé àtàlejò. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni afárá Brooklyn kò lẹ́gbẹ́. Ó kéré tán ẹgbẹ̀rin ní oríṣi èdè tí wọ́n ń sọ ní New York. Èyí ló sì fa bí wọ́n ṣe máa ń sọ pé gbogbo èdè àgbáyé ló pé sílùú New York. Ní nǹkan ọdún 1624 ni àwọn èèyàn ẹ̀yà Dutch tẹ̀dó sí ibi tó ń jẹ́ New York báyìí. Amsterdam ni wọ́n ń pè é tẹ́lẹ̀ nígbà náà, àmọ́ lọ́dún 1664 ni wọ́n yí padà sí New York lẹ́yìn tí ọba King Charles kejì tilẹ̀ Gẹ̀ẹ́sì fún arákùnrin rẹ̀ ní ilẹ̀ ìyẹn Duke of York. Láti ọdún 1785 ló ti wá di olú ìlú ilẹ̀ Amẹ́ríkà títí di òní olónìí. Ó jẹ́ ìlú ńlá tó kún fún ọ̀pọ̀ iṣẹ́ ọnà àti ibùdó iṣẹ́ àtinúdá oríṣiríṣi fún gbogbo ìran ọmọnìyàn. Ìlú New York lórílẹ̀-èdè Amẹ́ríkà.
Bẹ́gùn ò bá jáde mọ̀rìnwó la kọ́kọ́ rí, ọwọ́ gẹ́gẹ́ ní síwájú ìjó, ẹsẹ̀ kàtàkàtà ní síwájú rìn. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ń gbúrò wa a tún ti dé náà nù. Ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò Owónbẹ̀ Unlimited pẹ̀lú mi ọmọ yín olólùfẹ́ yín ọ̀rẹ́ yín Suliat tẹ́túmọ̀ sí Mọ́rẹ́níkejì ẹ lè pè mí ní Sùsù tó bá wẹ lómi a sọ pé ìyálòde àríyá gbogbo orúkọ tẹ́ ẹ bá pè mí kò sí èyí tí mi ò ní jẹ yín ẹ farabalẹ̀ kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò Owambe Unlimited lórí ìkànnì Western Spring Television ní ìkànnì 190 ibẹ̀ ni Owambe Unlimited ń bọ̀ wá ẹ fàkùrẹ̀ tẹ̀dí kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò àríyá wa.
wọ́n sọ fún yín pé ẹ máa wo Owambe Unlimited lórí Western Spring Television.
Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Èmi l'Honorable Lamin Sefi láti ìlú Ọlọ́jà Àbálá sí ti alias Agbọ́mọbímọ. Ṣé jẹ́ àbá náà?
Tòró tọ́jọ́ mẹ́ta kan kò fẹ́ mọ́ra mọ́. Ó dáa, lẹ́yìn àbá látẹnu Honorable Jamiu Semiu láti ìlú Ìníṣà tí Honorable Lamid Sefiu láti Ọlọ́jà Ìbálá náà kéje àbá náà ni mo ń bẹ̀rẹ̀ ìjókòó ilé tòní.
Jòrò ló tún gorí afẹ́fẹ́, ọmọdé dàgbà, ẹ̀sùn mọ́ mi èdè kájọ sọ. Adéyẹmí Ọlábọ̀dé ló sọ wípé ohun abádìjọ́rò igun nígun.
Ó dáa, bí ìjókòó ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò tòní ṣe gbéra sọ. Àná òde yìí ni kángun ọ̀rọ̀ owó oṣù òṣìṣẹ́ tuntun kángun síbì kan láàrin ẹgbẹ́ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ àti ìjọba àpapọ̀ ní orílẹ̀-èdè yìí. Ó di mímọ̀ wípé ààrẹ Bọ́lá Ahmed Tinubu ti fi ọwọ́ sí sísan ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà àádọ́rin náírà 70,000 naira gẹ́gẹ́ bí owó oṣù òṣìṣẹ́ tó kéré jù fún àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba lórílẹ̀-èdè yìí. A rántí pé ó ti ṣe díẹ̀ tí ọ̀rọ̀ owó oṣù òṣìṣẹ́ tó kéré jù ti di ohun àáfàsọ́tún fàsósì láàrin ẹgbẹ́ òṣìṣẹ́ àti ìjọba àpapọ̀ nílẹ̀ yìí. Ṣáájú ni ìjọba àpapọ̀ ti ní àwọn ò ní lè san ju ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà 62 náírà 62,000 naira lọ. Tí ẹgbẹ́ òṣìṣẹ́ náà sì yarí kanlẹ̀ pé àwọn ò lè gba ohun tó bá dín ní ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà 210 náírà 250,000 naira. Ṣé olówó òní jẹ́ òró gan kí ìwọ̀ fàájì agùn mọ́tẹ̀? Ìpàdé tó wáyé láàrin àwọn adarí ẹgbẹ́ òṣìṣẹ́ àti ìjọba àpapọ̀ lánàá yìí ni wọ́n ti padà fẹnukò sí ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà àádọ́rin náírà 70,000 naira. Látìgbà tí ròyìn náà ti jẹyọ ló ti di ohun tí àwọn èèyàn ń fi èrò tiwọn léde lé lórí. Ọ̀pọ̀ ló ń béèrè pé kí ni yóò ṣẹlẹ̀ sí àwọn tó wà lẹ́ka aládàáni, àwọn oníṣòwò àti àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ nígbà tó jẹ́ pé ọjà kan náà làwọn èèyàn yìí ná pẹ̀lú àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba nílẹ̀ yìí. Bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ ń béèrè pé bá a bá wo bí ohun gbogbo ṣe rí táwẹnu ọkọ̀ ọrọ̀ ajé Nàìjíríà, ṣé kéèyàn máa gba ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà àádọ́rin náírà 70,000 naira là ń sọ pẹ̀lú nǹkan tí ọrọ̀ ajé ilẹ̀ yìí ń sọ tí wọ́n sì ń sọ pé ó kù díẹ̀ káàtó bó ṣe jẹ́ pé ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà àádọ́rin náírà ni ìjọba fọwọ́ sí fún àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ lórílẹ̀‐èdè Nàìjíríà. bí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ṣe ń kọminú pé ṣé èlé tó fẹ́ gorí owó oṣù òṣìṣẹ́ yìí kò tún ní pakún bí ọjà ṣe gbówó lórí gegege nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà ni àwọn míì ń béèrè pé ṣóun tá a tiẹ̀ nílò gan-an ni èlé lórí owó òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba ni àbí wíwá wọ̀rọ̀ kò fi ṣe àdá sí bí owó náírà ilẹ̀ yìí yóò ṣe gbé wọn lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè ti àgbáyé àti bí ọrọ̀ ajé Nàìjíríà yóò ṣe le koko bí eyín afọ́ ogun ṣe. Àwọn ìbéèrè tó wá ń tawọ́ tasẹ̀ nù ìjókòó lé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò lónìí tó ti di ọ̀rọ̀ kanlẹ̀ kan bá lé ohun tó bá kan orógùn ó ti kan ìgbákọ̀ gbogbo àwọn honorable náà ni. Ìbéèrè àkọ́kọ́, àwọn àǹfààní wo ni yóò jẹyọ látara bí owó oṣù òṣìṣẹ́ tó kéré jù yóò ṣe wá jẹ 70 náírà àti pé kí ni àwọn àléébù àwọn ohun tó kù díẹ̀ káàtó tí yóò ṣẹyọ ń pa rẹ̀ bá a bá wo àǹfààní ó yẹ ká lè wo àléébù tí yóò ní láwùjọ wa nípa ọjà lórí òṣìṣẹ́ àti lórí ọrọ̀ ajé Nàìjíríà lápapọ̀. Èkejì, kí ni yóò ṣẹlẹ̀ sí àwọn bíi oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ àwọn tó wà lẹ́ka aládàáni àwọn oníṣòwò àtàwọn míì tí wọ́n jọ ń ná ọjà kan náà pẹ̀lú àwọn tó jẹ́ òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba ní orílẹ̀-èdè yìí. Ìbéèrè tó jẹ́ ìkẹta, kí ló yẹ kí ìjọba ó mú sàlógùn kí òpin ó lè dé bá ọ̀wọ́n gógó ọjà àti bí ọrọ̀ ajé ilẹ̀ yìí ṣe ń ṣòjòjò tójòjò ń ṣògùn rẹ̀ tára ògùn ò sì le. Àwọn kan wọ́n tún sọ pé ṣérú àsìkò yìí ṣe 70 náírà 70,000 naira ran nǹkan ni béèyàn bá wo ipò tọrọ ajé ilẹ̀ yìí wà. Àwọn ìbéèrè mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta yìí tó tún wá gbọ́mọpọ̀ yìí òun ló mọ̀ ń fẹ́ ìdáhùn nínú ìjókòó lé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò ẹ̀yin honorable ìdáhùn sí àwọn ìbéèrè yìí nínú ìjókòó lé. Ọ̀dà honorable Lamid Sefiu. Mo fi owó àtọmọdé lẹ́nu ẹ má bínú. Ẹ̀yin honorable tẹ bá ń wò wá nulẹ̀ ẹ má jà gbàgbé o bí a ṣe ń ṣe lọ́wọ́ bá ibikíbi tẹ bá ti ń wò wá yálà nínú ilé ni tẹ́ ń wò wá lórí móhùnmáwòrán ní ìkànnì Western Spring Television lórí Star Times ìkànnì 100 channel 190 lórí Star Times DTT tàbí tẹ́ ń wò wá lórí ìtàkùn ayélujára YouTube ẹ lè máa dá sí nǹkan tí à ń gbé yẹ̀wò àwọn ojú òpó tí à ń lò òun lẹ́ ń wò lójú móhùnmáwòrán yìí o 0816 466 4844 0816 466 4844 àti 0913 259 9000 0913 259 9000. Honorable Lamid Sefiu ẹ máa bọ̀rọ̀ yín lọ.
Vice Speaker jókòó yóò ní dàrú.
Bá mi.
Èmi ni Honorable Lamid Sefiu láti ìlú Ọlọ́jà Bala City alias Agbọ́mọbí wọn. Ṣé rí ìjọba dádú òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba dádú ẹni tí ń tajà dádú gbogbo epo dádú ọrọ̀ ajé dádú lọ́tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ ẹ jẹ́ ká má mú bọnú ara wọn ṣùgbọ́n nísìn òwúyẹ̀wòye ọmọ ènìyàn wọ́n ti mú bọnú ara wọn ẹ jẹ́ ká wò àwọn ààrẹ àwọn gọ́vnọ̀ àwọn president àwọn ti àwọn bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ tó jẹ́ wípé ní sálárì tí wọ́n ń gbà láti bí ọdún mẹ́wàá sẹ́yìn ṣé iná ń gbà ń sìn ó ti increase òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba yìí àwọn náà ló ń kọ́ wọn àwọn ló kọ́ wọn owó yẹn níwòye tèmi ó kéré ṣùgbọ́n èmi tó rọ̀ wọ́n pẹ̀lú àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba kágbà bẹ́ẹ̀ pé torí pé bóyá torí pé wọ́n fowó kún nǹkan wọ́n nǹkan ọ̀wọ́n o kò wọ́n o ìjọba gangan ni ẹjẹ́ abẹ́ lórí gbogbo tí ń ṣẹlẹ̀ yìí àní kí nǹkan wálẹ̀ ẹnìkan sọ̀rọ̀ kí n bá ṣe mistake wọ́n ní ó yẹ kán ti béèrè fún ẹ̀kúnwó ti pẹ́ bí ó yà kí bí ọdún bá rùn síra wọn tàbí jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ tàbí kọ́mọ́tò bẹ́ẹ̀. now òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba dádúró wọ́n try wọ́n kọ́ sẹ́rí kíyàn máa kọ́ èèyàn ní kíyàn máa kọ́ yàn nǹkan tó lágbára ni kán fojú àánú kan fi wò wọ́n oúnjẹ wọn kán bá wa sọ gbogbo ẹ̀dẹ̀rọ̀ ààyè ọ̀tọ̀ epo wọn ààyè ọ̀tọ̀ kán bá wa sọ dẹ̀rọ̀ àwọn eléyìí wọ́n jà fún ẹ̀tọ́ wọn ni wọ́n jà fún ẹ̀tọ́ wọn tíyàn bá ti ń jà fún ẹ̀tọ́ kọ̀ọ̀kan pọ́kọ́ tó jẹ́ wọ́n òṣìṣẹ́ àwọn tó jẹ́ àwọn olórílẹ̀-èdè wa àwọn ni wọ́n bá sọ gbogbo nǹkan tó wọ́n yìí wọ́n bá ṣẹ́dọ̀rọ̀ fún wa ká má mọ̀ mú ọ̀rọ̀ mọ́ pé òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba ṣégeṣe pé ńgbà tó jà fẹ́kùnwó yìí ní nǹkan wà wọn rárá o kọ́nẹ́rẹ́bù kọjọ́ra wọn o máìsíkà kọjọ́ra wọn o ó yàtọ̀ síra wọn o bí wọ́n jà fẹ́ tọ̀ wọn ni káwa aráàlú káwa náà ké ká ké sí ìlú yóò ṣiṣẹ́ ṣé wọn ò ṣiṣẹ́ ni wọ́n ń ṣiṣẹ́ fún òòlù èyí tí ò bá jàjà wá ṣiṣẹ́ ń bẹ̀ ẹ fi ilẹ̀ òònù ọlọ́ọ̀nù ló àwa rọ ìjọba wa kán síjọ́ àánú wò wá o àwa tá a jó ní sí ọwọ́ tá a jó ṣiṣẹ́ ìjọba àwàlẹ́ o tọ́jà pé ní gbogbo nǹkan tó wọ̀nyí kan bá wa sọ bí epo ṣe rí kó jẹ́ kó wálẹ̀ káwa náà ká benefit ẹ̀.
ẹ̀ẹ́dún honourable Lamid Sefiu ẹ̀yin honourable yòókù ẹ̀ mọ́ gbọ́ o àwọn kan wọ́n sọ ní àárín ìgboro wípé ó ti pẹ́ táwọn ọlọ́jà àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ ẹ̀yin oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ ti gbówó lórí ọjà tí iye tẹ́ ń gbà lọ́dún ní àsìkò tá a wà yìí ó yàtọ̀ sí iye tí wọ́n ń gbà tẹ́ ń gbà kó tó di pé wọ́n yọ owó ìrànwọ́ orí epo.
yóò rí bẹ́ẹ̀.
kò sí ètò ní ká tún máa béèrè fún nǹkan míì àwọn kan tún sọ.
yóò rí bẹ́ẹ̀ torí wọ́n ní bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ṣe sọ lódò ní àṣẹ sọ̀kò rẹ̀ ṣe rí bí téèyàn bá rà nìyàn ta lè ra nǹkan pọ̀nkan nísìn kẹ́ wá lọ tà pọ̀nkan yóò tún léwó sí ni sì lè ta nǹkan ọ̀pọ̀ kẹ́ wá sọ pé ẹ fẹ́ lọ fi rọ̀ wọn yóò rí bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n gbogbo tá à ń sọ yìí lórí ìjọba yìí ni lórí ìjọba yìí ni tí ìjọba bá pàṣẹ tó kè sábà rí pé yẹn pé sọ pọ́sibù ká má gbọ́dọ̀ sí ìjọba lẹ́nu ni orí amóhùnmọ́ra wà yìí tá a bá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí kú ìjọba tá sọ̀rọ̀ òdì sí ìjọba nísìn kíákíá wọ́n sáré gbégbé sẹ́wọ̀n ní ẹlọ́mọ ẹnìyẹn wá kí ló dé sí wọn gbàrò òye wa ni wọ́n gbàrò òye wa.
àsìkò yìí la mọ̀ wípé àwọn èèyàn ń wo Western Spring Television.
lámọ̀ pé wọ́n wò ṣé ìgẹ́ ti bá ń sìn so àwọn gangan ní ká bá wí àwọn gangan ní ká bá sọ̀rọ̀ débi pé kí nǹkan fi wálẹ̀ torí bí nǹkan ṣe wálẹ̀ tí nǹkan bá wálẹ̀ látòkè sẹ́ ẹni tí tata bá ṣe sọ pé ní àwọn lọ́balọ́ba jáde síta wọ́n sọ pé ní iye báyìí kò sí iyata 500 naira mọ́ wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti 200 naira wá sísàlẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ ni bá a ṣe ń sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ báyẹn ní ìbáwọn náà rí pẹ̀lú báwọn lọ́balọ́ba ṣe jáde ọba àlùwà yìí náà ti jẹ́ tó súnmọ́ Ọ̀ṣun state wọ́n jáde bẹ́ẹ̀ tẹ́ ẹ wá rí gbogbo ẹ̀ báyẹn abẹ́ ìjọba o kọ́mọ̀ pa dúdú papọ̀ mọ́ sàpàtì o òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba ọ̀dájú o kán tọ́jú wọn o torí wọ́n gba bẹ́ẹ̀ wọn kọjá o kán sì jẹ́ kí gbogbo nǹkan kọ́ wálẹ̀ fún wa mo dúró ìdúró mo sẹ́ ìsìnkú omi tó ń bọ̀.
ẹ ṣe gan ni o ẹ jẹ́ ká máa mu ní ìlà kan ìlà kejì Honourable Adenegan ó yá o.
Honourable Speaker ẹ ṣe ó tọjọ́ mẹ́ta kan.
ẹ ṣe o.
mo fẹ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti ìbéèrè tó parí. orúkọ mi ni Honourable Ọ̀pẹ́yẹmí Adenegan láti Òṣogbo. ẹ má bínú pé òun bá wálẹ̀ díẹ̀.
àbáyín lò bẹ́ẹ̀.
nǹkan ẹ̀yọ̀kan tí mo nípa bí nǹkan ṣe wọ́n gógó ní orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà pàápàá jùlọ oúnjẹ torí látòkè délẹ̀ tìbútòrò ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà ló jẹ́ ilẹ̀ ọlọ́ràá tí ó ṣe ń gbin oríṣiríṣi oúnjẹ ṣàṣà oúnjẹ tá à ń jẹ nílẹ̀ yìí tí yóò jẹ́ oúnjẹ tá a lè gbìn tá a lè ṣètò ẹ̀ ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà bí ojú ọjọ́ ṣe rí nípa ètò security ètò ààbò ètò ìrìnnà ètò iná ó jẹ́ kó nira àti ètò ìṣúná ètò ìyáwó fún àwọn tó bá fẹ́ ṣe ètò tó fẹ́ ṣiṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ ó nira díẹ̀ ní ìmọ̀ program kankan tí ìjọba tó wà lóde ní ti ìpínlẹ̀ tá a wà yìí tó ti gbé síta láti ọdún kan tó forí sọ iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ tó yẹ pé bí bá ṣe ń sọ lókè sísàlẹ̀ pé wọ́n ń ṣe ọ̀nà wọ́n ń ṣe gbá mi ò tí ì gbọ́ kankan nípa pé wọ́n ró àwọn àgbẹ̀ ní agbára wọ́n ìjọba ti sáré ilẹ̀ bíi ẹgbẹgbẹ̀rún lẹ̀ pé ẹ tó bá nífẹ̀ẹ́ kó wá mú ṣe rí tí ètò àwọn tó wá tún gbìyànjú ní láyé ara wọn ìbẹ̀rù bójó àti fún ìjínigbé kẹgbìn nǹkan tán kẹ débẹ̀ kẹ rí pé wọ́n ti kó gbogbo ẹ̀ lọ wọ́n ti kó gbogbo èrè lọ ó máa ń domi tútù sí ọkàn èèyàn láti ṣe iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ ìwọ̀nba àwọn tán wá ń ṣe náà dandan ni kó wọ́n torí owó tí wọ́n ná lórí ètò ààbò láti lè dé oko wọn láti lè kó èrò oko jáde ó pọ̀. Ní oṣù tó lọ mo gba ibìkan lọ ní sáìdì gáàjì ọlọ́dẹ ọ̀nà yẹn mo ní àti gbé mọ́tò sílẹ̀ tún san owó fún ọlọ́kadà tó máa gbé mi dé ìgbèríko tí mò ń lọ èèyàn wá wò kí ẹ pé mo fẹ́ lọ kó ọ̀gẹ̀dẹ̀ jáde ẹ wo iye tó máa ná mi tí bá wá kó dọ́jà ẹ wo iye tí màá gbé lé orí ọ̀gẹ̀dẹ̀ yẹn. So tí ìjọba bá ń mójútó àwọn ojú ọjọ́ tó lè jẹ́ kó rọrùn láti lè ṣiṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀, oúnjẹ máa sù wá bọ̀. Kì í ṣe iṣẹ́ ìjọba ni láti dáko, bọ̀ iṣẹ́ ìjọba ni láti lè jẹ́ kó rọrùn fún àwọn èèyàn láti dáko. Nǹkan tó yẹ kí ìjọba kó kọjú mọ́ nìyẹn, ọ̀nà tó máa dé ìgbèríko, ọ̀nà tó máa jẹ́ àwọn nǹkan tí ètò ààbò tó máa mójútó téèyàn á lè lọ téèyàn á lè bọ̀ ní ayọ̀ àtàlàfíà tí ọkàn á lè balẹ̀. Ìgbà yẹn ní tá bá gba 70,000 naira láìlè tó rà kankan, tán sọ owó di 600 kò ní tó. Tàbá ń ba lọ báyìí. So kì í ṣe oye owó tí ìjọba fi ṣe gbèdéke fún àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ gangan ní kókó, bí ìṣe pé nǹkan tí wọ́n á fi rà gangan tó yẹ pé tó jẹ bá ti kúrò níṣẹ́ ìṣẹ́ bùṣe. Ẹ ṣeun, ẹ jẹ́ kí iṣẹ́ nu kù.
Ọ̀dà ẹ ṣe gan-an ni. Honourable Jamiu Semiu ọ̀dà.
Mo kí abẹnugan lélẹ̀ kan sí. Mo kí akójanulé, mo sì kí akọ̀wé ilé náà. Ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò olóòní jó dàrú. Mo kí àwọn ojúgbà mi tá a ti ń jọ ń sọ̀rọ̀ látàárọ̀, olóòní kúrú làákàyè wọn. Èmi ni Honourable Comrade Jamiu Semiu láti Ìbínísà tí mò ń sojú odò ọ̀tìn South àti ọlọ́ọ̀dá lápapọ̀ local government. Ìmọ̀ọ́mù àgbà náà ni fún gbogbo ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò. Abẹnuganlé ọ̀rọ̀ tẹ́ mú wá lónìí, ọ̀rọ̀ tó ṣe kókó tó níye lórí ni. Tẹ́ rí lórí ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba, ó sọ sí mi lẹ́nu, ó buyọ̀ sí fún ìjọba. Torí wípé tí ì bá jẹ́ wípé bóyá nǹkan wọn, àwọn náà ò ní máa béèrè fún ẹ̀kúnwó. Tábá ní ká wo 70,000 tí wọ́n rún kúnná sí ní àná òde yìí, ni wípé ní tí àwọn náà ń rà ó pọ̀ gan. Ṣùgbọ́n tábá ní ká wo 70,000 yìí ò ràn kankan lásìkò yìí. Ṣùgbọ́n àá bẹ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ náà ni kí wọ́n bá faradà díẹ̀.
Mo tún fọwọ́ àtọmọdé lẹ́nu Honourable Jamiu Semiu. Ẹni 70,000 náírà 70,000 ràn kankan. Tẹ́ ẹ bá fi ọkàn bá ìtàn lọ lórílẹ̀‐èdè Nàìjíríà, èyí ni ìgbà àkọ́kọ́ tí owó oṣù iṣẹ́ tó kéré jù yóò tó ìlọ́po méjì nínú ìtàn orílẹ̀‐èdè Nàìjíríà. Ṣé kò tún wọ́n gbìyànjú báwọn náà ni?
Ẹ wá rí táwa náà rà ní ìsìn. Ṣebí ìlọ́po méjì ni abẹnugan sọ, ìlọ́po 4 là ń ra nǹkan ní ìsìn. Ìlọ́po 4 là ń ra nǹkan. Ṣé bí a ṣe ń ra nǹkan gbà kan, ṣé iye tí à ń ra ta nígbà kan là ń ra ta ní ìsìn ni? Ìlọ́po 5 gan times 10 ní ìsìn. Torí wípé kì í ṣe bí ilé ayé ṣe rí ní tẹ́lẹ̀. Sẹ́mọ̀ wípé bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ṣe ń lọ gẹ́gẹ́ bí Honourable mi sọ làwọn náà ń sọ̀kù rẹ̀. Torí wípé bí nǹkan ṣe di ìlọ́po tẹ́ ń sọ yẹn, èló ni epo wà tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ 195 naira. Ẹ wo ìtàn epo nísìn 900 naira 1000 naira. Èyí tó dínwó jù tí mo rà ní ilé epo kan nísìn, èyí tó dínwó jù ní 700 naira. 700 naira.
Àwọn kan máa ń tà ní 580.
Ní bóyá ẹ̀yin tẹ́ bá fẹ́ tọ̀ ẹ fọjọ́ kan lẹ̀ fún yàn. Ṣé gbogbo wọn ni wọ́n wá ní àwọn tí wọ́n ń ta 580? Ṣé gbogbo wọn ni wọ́n ní? Ní tó ṣẹlẹ̀ nìyẹn. Èmi ò rọ ìjọba nǹkan tó wọ́n kódà láàrin ọdún kan sísìn gan tí nǹkan ò bá sì tún lọlẹ̀, àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ò tún béèrè fún nǹkan mi tó ju tí wọ́n sọ yìí lọ. Ìní wípé gẹ́gẹ́ bí táwọn Honourable mi sọ, bí nǹkan ó ṣe wálẹ̀ ìní wọn bá mójútó. Wọ́n ní òkèlè gbígbẹ ó sàn ju pẹ̀lú àlàáfíà àbí ẹ̀yin Honourable ju tútù tí ò ní kinní lọ. Àlùbáríkà ló jù. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni àlùbáríkà ló jù. Ìní wípé kí wọ́n bá wá bí nǹkan ó ṣe wálẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí táwọn Honourable mi sọ, fún wa ní nǹkan tá fi dá oko kò sí yùn bẹ́ẹ̀. Ẹ̀yin ẹ sì wo owó tiwọn, ẹ ní sùúrù abẹnugan ní owó tí àwọn ààrẹ ń gbà, ṣé tí ààrẹ ń gbà tẹ́lẹ̀ nígbà tẹ́ ń sọ yìí ṣe làwọn ń gbà nísìn, ṣé táwọn àwọn sẹ́nítọ̀ àwọn ṣe tí wọ́n ń gbà tẹ́lẹ̀ ṣe wọ́n ń gbà nísìn. Gbogbo nǹkan náà ti yàtọ̀. Àyẹ̀ ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìbéèrè kí mọ́ lọ bù mí. Ṣẹ́rá àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ lóòótọ́ ń tabára làátà oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ lè mí. Ṣùgbọ́n èmi ò ráǹfààní tíjọ nínú pé wọ́n gba owó yẹn ara àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba ló pè fún. Kò ìjọba ò tí ì ṣe fáwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́. Ìní wípé tí o la lè fi jèrè fáwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́. Ìní wípé bí nǹkan ó ṣe ṣe kí ni bí ó ṣe wálẹ̀. Àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ àwa náà ó gbádùn. Irú epo yìí bí ó ṣe wálẹ̀. Àwa náà ó gbádùn. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ní akúkú dá 20 naira pé ká fi tún refinery ṣe èmi náà wà nù wọn. Màá bá wọn dá. kò lè dà tó bá jẹ́ wípé wọn ò lówó tí wọ́n fi lè mú láti fi tún rìfánárì ṣe ẹja dáwà ọ̀nàrẹ́bù tá a wà ń bì náà ní kó kalẹ̀ káwọn fi lọ tún rìfánárì ṣe ó bá yẹ pé 50 naira ni wọ́n gbà ó bá yẹ pé 100 naira ni wọ́n ẹja dá yóò kárí tó ti yé yín yóò kárí oyin tí wọn tó kàn kọ́ ni wọ́n ń ṣe nítorí yẹ sẹ́rí àwa la dìbò fún wọn níta bá nídìí fún ni wọ́n ṣe fún wa níta bá béèrè fún kí wọ́n mọ̀ wulẹ̀ ṣe àbèrè ni ìjọba nídìí pé a bá wo àwọn ọ̀làjú àwọn ìlú òyìnbó ní tí wọ́n nídìí ní wọ́n béèrè ní àwọn ní ìjọba àwọn náà ń ṣe kíni ní wọ́n ń ṣe fún wọn tábà lọ́nà láfẹ́ kí wọ́n sọ̀nà fún wa omi amọ̀ kó ti kú ti pẹ́ kò sómi ẹ̀rọ mọ́ àti mọ̀ọ́yún yún tiẹ̀ ti kú ti pẹ́ iná ọba náà ti lọ kọ́lọ́ba jí padà ni àmọ́ ilé ìta láti béèrè fún kí wọ́n ṣe fún wa ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò ní dàrú.
àmín ẹ ṣé gan-an ni ó dá gbogbo ẹ̀yin ọ̀nàrẹ́bù tẹ̀sí náwó sókè ní sùúrù ẹ jẹ́ kí a lọ sí òdì kejì lọ́hùn náà bí a bá lọ sí òdì kejì lọ́hùn tá a bá dé ìjókòó ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò yóò tẹ̀ síwájú ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń wò wá lórí móhùnmáwòrán ẹ má gbàgbé o ẹ lè mọ́ lójú òpó yìí kẹ́yìn náà kẹ́ ẹ dá sí nǹkan tí à ń gbé yẹ̀wò ibikíbi tẹ́ bá ti ń wò wá ẹ lè dá sí àwọn ojú òpó náà ní 0816 466 4844 0816 466 4844 tàbí 0913 259 9000 0913 259 9000. bí a bá lọ sódì kejì náà tá a sinmi díẹ̀ ìjókòó ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò yóò tẹ̀síwájú níkànnì WSTV à ń bọ̀.
ètò yìí tún ti dé o. ètò ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò ló tún gorí afẹ́fẹ́ ọmọdé tàgbà ẹ̀sùn mọ́ bí ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ sọ Adéyẹmí Ọlábọ̀dé ló sọ wípé ohun abádìjọ́rò igun nígun.
Èkó Lagos Èkó akéte ìlú ọgbọ́n Èkó akéte ìlú ìmọ̀ ọmọ ọlọ́gbọ́n dorí ẹja mú àwọn òmùgọ̀ àdìmú nírù ẹni dẹ́kọ̀ tí ò gbọ́n ọgbọ́n rẹ̀ dọ̀run alákejì gẹ́gẹ́ bí àrọ́bá ẹni tó tẹ ìṣẹ́ridó tó sì kọ́kọ́ gbé ibẹ̀ lọ́dún 1699 ló jẹ́ ọdẹ tí orúkọ rẹ̀ ń jẹ́ Ògúnfúnminíre ọmọ ọba ìlú Ilé Ifẹ̀ ní í ṣe ó máa ń ṣọdẹ lọ síbẹ̀ láti Ifẹ̀ ó sì pàgọ́ tó ti máa ń sinmi ṣáájú kó tún tó lọ bẹ ilé rẹ̀ wò. nígbà tó yá àwọn ọdẹ mìíràn wá darapọ̀ mọ́ láti ṣọdẹ nínú igbó yìí ni wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní ṣọdẹ tí wọ́n sì ń pọ̀ sí pẹ̀lú àwọn ènìyàn wọn. báyìí ni wọ́n ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní tàn kálẹ̀ tó fi dé gbogbo ibi tí Èkó fẹ̀ dé lónìí. ìlú Èkó ìlú ńlá ìlú Èkó yìí ni ibùdó agbára ìṣàkóso ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà wà tẹ́lẹ̀ rí pàápàá lásìkò ìjọba amúnisìn ṣáájú ọdún 1991 tí wọ́n gbé lọ sílùú Àbújá. Èkó àdèlé ọmọ agun àgẹ̀rẹ̀ Èkó ọmọ afíjú wọjà arìngbẹ́ndẹ́kẹ́ ọ̀bùn wọjà páṣíọ̀ṣíọ̀ ẹ̀yọ̀ ní bàbá Èkó àríjó ṣe bí ọba Èkó ọmọ odò tí ò ṣeé yájú sí Èkó arómi sá lẹ́gbẹ́lẹ́gbẹ́.
Gbẹ̀bíró bílẹ̀mọ̀dàwòrò kọ́ọ̀dé má dìbò sí. bá ṣe gbé ètò yìí kalẹ̀ láti lè jẹ́ kóníkálukú fi ṣe òdiwọ̀n ìdílé wọn. òtítọ́ ọbẹ̀ ni pé kò sí ìdílé kan tí ò ní ìpèníjà àti ẹ̀. ṣùgbọ́n àtẹ́lẹwọ́ ẹni la fi ń tún ẹni ṣe. àti oníkálukú bá kọ sí ìpèníjà náà ìdílé yóò sọ bí ìdílé yóò ṣe rí. Gbẹ̀bíró ká finúkonú ká fi kòlùkùn pẹ̀lú àwọn lọ́kọláya lọ́lọ́kan òjọ̀kan lórí ètò. níbẹ̀ lọ́mọ Afọlábí ó ti mọ tàkó tó béèrè sí wọn. láláì tìkan pé méjì lórí ọ̀rọ̀ tó ń dá òwòwò sílẹ̀ nínú ìdílé. bẹ́ẹ̀ sì làwọn àlejò náà yóò mọ jẹ́ ká mọ ọ̀nà tí wọ́n ń gbé gbà sílé wọn ò fi dàrú tí fi ń tò. Gbẹ̀bíró ẹ máa pàdé Múyìwá Àfọlábí lórí ètò yìí ní gbogbo ọjọ́ àbámẹ́ta láago 8 òwúrọ̀ tí àtúntẹ̀rì ó sì tún máa wá láàrin ọ̀sẹ̀ ní ìkànnì móhùnmáwòrán Western Spring Television ìkànnì 150 lórí StarTime. Gbẹ̀bíró tọ̀sẹ̀ yìí ó máa yàtọ̀ ní kò ní yàtọ̀ fọ́.
ètò yìí tún ti dé o. ètò ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò ló tún gorí afẹ́fẹ́ ọmọdé tàgbà ẹ̀sùn mọ́ bí ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ sọ Adéyẹmí Ọlábọ̀dé ló sọ wípé ohun abádìjọ́rò igun nígun.
bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ẹ jẹ́ ká máa kíra wa káàbọ̀ padà sí ìjókòó ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò yìí ẹ̀yin tẹ́ bá ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ń tan móhùnmáwòrán yín àbẹ́ ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ń darapọ̀ mọ́ wa lórí ìtàkùn ayélujára ti YouTube Western Spring Television náà lẹ wà ńbẹ̀ yìí ìjókòó ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò ló ń lọ lọ́wọ́ pẹ̀lú gbogbo àwọn honourable àti àwọn honourable tó wà nù kulu pẹ̀lú wa ni àti ẹ̀yin honorable tẹ wà nínú ilé tẹ̀ ń wò wá níbikíbi tẹ bá wà ní gbogbo yín pátápátá lákì ẹ kú ìfọmọnìyàn ṣe ẹ̀yin tẹ́ bá ṣe ń darapọ̀ mọ́ wa tí ẹ ń wò pé kí ni à ń gbé lónìí nínú ìjókòó ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò àná òde yìí ni kángun ọ̀rọ̀ owó oṣù òṣìṣẹ́ tuntun kángun síbì kan láàrin ẹgbẹ́ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ àti ìjọba àpapọ̀ lórílẹ̀‐èdè yìí ó di mímọ̀ pé ààrẹ Bọ́lá Tinubu ti fi ọwọ́ sí sísan ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà àádọ́rin náírà 70,000 naira gẹ́gẹ́ bí owó oṣù tó kéré jù fún àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba ní orílẹ̀-èdè yìí. A ó rántí pé ó ti ṣe díẹ̀ tí ọ̀rọ̀ owó oṣù òṣìṣẹ́ tó kéré jù ìyẹn tẹ́lẹ̀ bó ń pè ní new minimum wage ti di ohun àáfà sọ́tún fà sósì láàrin ẹgbẹ́ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ àti ìjọba àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ yìí. Ṣáájú ni ìjọba àpapọ̀ ti ní àwọn ò ní lè san ju ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà méjìlélọ́gọ́ta náírà 62,000 naira lọ tí ẹgbẹ́ òṣìṣẹ́ náà sì yarí kanlẹ̀ takú wọn lé pé àwọn ò lè gba ohun tó bá ti dín ní ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà ọ̀tàlénígba ó dín mẹ́wàá ìyẹn 250,000 naira. Ṣé wọ́n ní olówó ní jẹ́ òró gan kí ìwọ̀fà jí agùn mọ́tẹ̀? Gẹ́gẹ́ bí ó ṣe ń ṣẹyọ nù jókòó lé ìjọba nínú ìpàdé tó wáyé láàrin ẹgbẹ́ òṣìṣẹ́ àti ìjọba àpapọ̀ lánàá yìí wọ́n ti padà fi ẹnu kò sí ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà àádọ́rin náírà 70,000 naira. Láti ìgbà tíròyìn náà ti jẹyọ ló ti di ohun tí àwọn èèyàn fi èrò tí wọ́n léde nípa rẹ̀. Ọ̀pọ̀ ló ń béèrè pé kí ni yóò ṣẹlẹ̀ sí àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ tó wà ní ẹ̀ka aládàáni àti àwọn oníṣòwò tó fi mọ́ àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ nígbà tó jẹ́ pé ọjà kan náà làwọn èèyàn yìí ń ná pẹ̀lú àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba. Bẹ́ẹ̀ làwọn míì sọ wípé bá a bá wẹnu lẹ̀ tá a wẹnu ọkọ̀ ipò tí ọrọ̀ ajé Nàìjíríà wà pé ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà àádọ́rin náírà ò tó ṣe nǹkan kan pẹ̀lú bóun gbogbo ṣe rí nílẹ̀ yìí lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ wọ́n ní 70,000 naira kò tó nǹkan kan gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìjọba ṣe fọwọ́ sí. Bí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ṣe ń kọminú pé ṣé èlé àbí ẹ̀kúnwó tí yóò gorí owó oṣù òṣìṣẹ́ yóò tún ní pakún bí ọjà ṣe gbówó lórí gegege lórílẹ̀‐èdè yìí ni àwọn míì wá ń béèrè pé ṣé ohun tá a nílò gan ni èlé lórí owó oṣù òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba àbí wíwá ojútùú sí bí owó náírà ilẹ̀ yìí yóò ṣe gbé wọ̀n sí lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ àwọn owó orílẹ̀‐èdè àgbáyé tó jẹ́ ti ọ̀làjú. Àwọn ìbéèrè tó ń tawọ́ tasẹ̀ nínú ìjókòó ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò lónìí tó ń fẹ́ ìdáhùn gbogbo ẹ̀yin honorable. Ìbéèrè àkọ́kọ́, àwọn àǹfààní wo gan-an ló wà tí yóò jẹyọ látara bí owó oṣù òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba tó kéré jù ṣe jẹ́ ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà àádọ́rin náírà àti pé kí ni àwọn àléébù kí ni àwọn ìpalára tó lè ṣe lórí ọrọ̀ ajé àbí lórí orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà lápapọ̀. Èkejì, kí ni yóò ṣẹlẹ̀ sí àwọn bíi òṣìṣẹ́ lẹ́ka aládàáni? A sọ̀rọ̀ débẹ̀ látàrí tó buwá ti ń sọ̀rọ̀ òṣìṣẹ́ lẹ́ka aládàáni bá a ṣe ń sọ̀rọ̀ yàrá àwọn olùkọ́ iléèwé girama aládàáni àbí iléèwé alákọ̀ọ́bẹ̀rẹ̀ tówó oṣù wọn gan ojú ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà ogún náírà lọ 20,000 naira. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ẹlòmíì tí ọgbà tó ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà ogún náírà. Kí ni yóò ṣẹlẹ̀ sí àwọn bíi òṣìṣẹ́ lẹ́ka aládàáni, àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ àti àwọn oníṣòwò tí wọ́n jọ ń ná ọjà kan náà pẹ̀lú àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba tí ẹ̀kúnwó wà fún yìí? Ìbéèrè kẹta, kí ló yẹ kí ìjọba ó mú sàlógùn kí òpin ó lè dé bá ọ̀wọ́n gógó ọjà àti bí ọrọ̀ ajé ilẹ̀ yìí yóò ṣe rú gọ́gọ́ sí? Àwọn ìbéèrè wájú wa rèé lónìí o tó ti di ọ̀rọ̀ kanlẹ̀ kan bá lé ohun tó bá kan orógùn ó ti kan ìgbà kan náà nù. Bákan náà ẹ má gbàgbé o, a ní pẹ̀lú ọ̀rọ̀ yìí ẹ má gbàgbé ńgbà kan ńgbà táwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ò tí ì ní ẹ̀kúnwó tí wọ́n tí ì gbégbèsè ẹ̀kúnwó fún wọn ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ náà àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ náà ti fi kún owó tí wọ́n ń gbà o. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì rèé iye ọjà kan náà sì ni wọ́n jọ ń ná gbogbo ẹ̀ náà ni ẹ jẹ́ ká mọ rò tá a bá ti fẹ́ dáhùn àwọn béèrè wa. Honorable Adigun Rafiu ṣé mo gbà á ẹ kú ọjọ́ mẹ́ta ẹ káàbọ̀ padà sí ìjókòó ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò. Àlérò pé tá a bá ṣe rí lónìí á tún rí nínú ìjókòó ilé tí ń bọ̀ kó mọ̀ tún di ọdún tí ń bọ̀. Ó dáa ẹ ṣé gan ni.
Mr. Speaker ẹ kú ètò.
Ẹ ṣé o.
Èmi ni Honorable Adigun Rafiu láti Ìgbọ̀nmi lóṣogbo. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọ̀rọ̀ tí ẹ mú wá ọlọ́run nípa làákàyè yín.
Àmín o.
Èyí tí a tún fẹ́ ṣe lónìí kò ní jẹ́ àṣemọ fún wa.
Àmín o.
Gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìwòye tèmi lórí ọ̀rọ̀ tí à ń gbé yẹ̀wò. Òun ni wípé ẹ rí wípé owó tí àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ béèrè fún yìí ó ṣe pàtàkì ó sì dá bẹ́ẹ̀. A sì kí ìjọba náà ní ibi tí wọ́n gbé déhùn torí wípé agídí pápá náà wọ́n fi gbé débẹ̀. Agídí wọ́n fi gbé débẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n a rọ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ibi tí wọ́n gbé déhùn náà kí wọ́n jẹ́ kí ó kọ́ tẹ́ wọn lọ́rùn báwọn kọ́ dáa báwọn torí wípé nǹkan tí ìjọba tún fẹ́ gbé sí ó tún pọ̀ nílẹ̀ dáadáa ju ti ọ̀rọ̀ owó òṣìṣẹ́ nìkan lọ. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìwòye tèmi tí àwọn èrè tí ẹ wá mú wá lórí ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn tí ó jẹ́ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ aládàáni tí ipa tí ó ní lórí tiwọn ẹ rí wípé lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ ìbáyìí nìsín kọ́lọ́n kó ṣàánú fún wa láti ìgbà tí àwọn ìjọba ti kéde ìbáyìí bẹ́ẹ̀ ni àwọn ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ iléeṣẹ́ aládàáni kan wọn ó ti máa tún wàhálà àti dé báwọn pẹ̀lú wípé ó ti pọn dandan fún gbogbo ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ iléeṣẹ́ aládàáni láti wòye bí àwọn náà ṣe máa rí owó ìsan ṣùgbọ́n in tí ó ṣẹlẹ̀ tí a fi sọ wípé wàhálà ó máa ṣẹlẹ̀ ńbẹ̀ ni wípé iléeṣẹ́ mélòó ni agbára wọn tí ó lè gbé owó yìí láti lè san pẹ̀lú àwọn tí wọ́n ń ṣe ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ iléeṣẹ́ yẹn. Ǹjẹ́ àwọn iléeṣẹ́ mi ò lè san? Ǹjẹ́ àwọn iléèwé aládàáni ò lè san? Ǹjẹ́ àwọn tó jẹ́ sí wípé wọ́n dá iṣẹ́ lẹ̀ tí wọ́n kàn gba àwọn èèyàn náà síbẹ̀ wípé ẹ máa bá mi ṣiṣẹ́ ǹjẹ́ wọ́n ò lè san owó yìí? Ṣé ìgbésẹ̀ yìí sì ò ní fa wípé kí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ míì tó jẹ́ iléeṣẹ́ aládàáni gan kí wọ́n fẹ́ máa jásí pé wọ́n máa dá àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ wọn dúró àbí wọ́n máa sọ wípé agbára mi ò gbé bóyá bí tí wọ́n ti ní ìdí òṣìṣẹ́ márùn-ún yóò jásí wípé kán máa mánéjì òṣìṣẹ́ méjì àwọn ipa tí ó ṣe pé ó lè kó láwọn iléeṣẹ́ aládàáni ó pọ̀ ṣùgbọ́n àárọ̀ wọn á bẹ̀ wọ́n wípé bí wọ́n ṣe kéde fún owó òṣìṣẹ́ tó kéré jùlọ yìí owó yìí ó kéré pẹ̀lú sí nǹkan tí ó wà ńlẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n àwọn náà dandan ó ti pọn dandan fún àwọn náà wọ́n san ni kọ́lọ́n kó ṣàánú fún wa ṣùgbọ́n èyí tí a rọ ìjọba èyí tí ẹ wá tún wá mú wá ní pé àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ wípé kó tó di àsìkò ganan ti fi owó lé owó tí wọ́n ń gbà irọ́ nígbà kò sí nǹkan tó jọ bẹ́ẹ̀. Torí wípé
ní sùúrù ẹ̀yin ọlọ́rẹ́bù ẹ má jẹ́ àpòrọ̀ o.
Ẹ̀sà ní purọ́.
Iye tẹ́yìn ń gbà lórí iṣẹ́ ọwọ́ yín báyìí láti fi kún owó epo bẹtiró tó ti yọwọ́ ìrànwọ́ òun náà lẹ́ ń gbà ń bí ọdún méjì sẹ́yìn. Ẹ má purọ́ o nínú ọjọ́ Jímọ̀.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ní sẹ́rí ti tòrí sí ọṣẹ́ ọwọ́ yẹn ó ní bí ṣe máa ń lọ láti ìgbà tí wọ́n ti kó tó di pé wọ́n fi kún ọ̀rọ̀ owó epo bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ọdọọdún tàbí bíi ọdún méjì ìyàtọ̀ máa ń bá ọ̀rọ̀ iye tí àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ọwọ́ tí wọ́n ń gbà ìyàtọ̀ máa ń bá bí nǹkan bá ṣe ń lọ làwọn ṣe máa ń ṣe kì í ṣe wípé bóyá pé tó ń tí bá sì ṣe ń sọ yìí náà kì í ṣe wípé ọjọ́ iye kan náà táwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ọwọ́ kọ̀ pa ìpọ̀ mọ́ iye kan náà káfíńtà lè máa gba iye báyìí ní owó ojúmọ́ kí bíríkìlà máa gba iye báyìí lówó ojúmọ́ kí wẹ́dà máa gba iye báyìí lówó ojúmọ́ kọ̀ papọ̀ mọ́ra wọn a lè fi wé tàwọn ti òṣìṣẹ́ ìjọba tó ṣe pé ẹnu kan náà iye kan náà ni wọ́n máa béèrè fún bí ṣe ń lọ nìyẹn láàrin ti àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ọwọ́ ṣé wá rí ti àwọn tí ó jẹ́ sí wípé tàbí wàá rọ ìjọba lórí nǹkan tí owó yìí tá à ń sọ̀rọ̀ báyìí ò ní wípé owó tí wọ́n tá à ń sọ̀rọ̀ báyìí 70,000 naira ní nǹkan tó wà níta lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ báyìí nísìn owó yẹn kéré jọjọ sí nǹkan tí a lè sọ wípé ó ti tó àbí ó ti tó àti àtòsẹ́kù ń bẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n táàrọ̀ ìjọba ní wípé kí wọ́n mú nǹkan wálẹ̀ owó yìí owó nǹkan tí wọ́n jù tẹ́rí tó bá jẹ́ sí pé wọ́n bá mú nǹkan wálẹ̀ gbogbo ohun táwọn náà ń béèrè fún ìwọ̀n ò ní béèrè fún nǹkan báyìí ẹ wo for example ara ráìsì ní nǹkan bíi 1,000 ní nǹkan bíi 700 naira 600 naira tẹ́lẹ̀ láti ibi tán ti gbé wọ́n ra ráìsì 2,100 naira nísìn wọ́n ra ráìsì ní nǹkan bíi 22,000 21,000 naira ráìsì ń lọ bíi 70,000 naira báyìí.
80 gan báyìí.
Bí 80,000 plus báyìí. So ẹ wo iye tó multiply yẹn ó túmọ̀ sí pé ẹni tí ń gba 30,000 naira bẹ́ẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀ tí ò ka ẹ wo iye tó fi jẹ yẹn ìjọba ní kí a bẹ̀ a rọ̀ wọ́n kí wọ́n wá nǹkan wálẹ̀ torí ibi tí wọ́n ti gọ sí ni wípé àwọn ti fi kó owó òṣìṣẹ́ nísìn ọgbọ̀n ni wọ́n tún máa fi ọgbọ́n láti fi kún owó ìpò àwọn kọ́lọ̀ kó ṣàánú fún àárọ̀ ìjọba kí wọ́n tó jẹ́ nǹkan lè fún Nàìjíríà mọ́ Ọlọ́run wà pẹ̀lú wa.
àmín ẹ ṣeun honourable wa ustaz wa ó yá o.
mi ni honourable Adam láti.
honourable Adam kini.
Adam Osama láti Powerline. Inú mi dùn pẹ̀lú ọ̀rọ̀ tí ẹni kí káwá dá sí ní òní alákọ̀ọ́kọ́ ń bẹ̀ ó ní pé nípa ọ̀rọ̀ owó tí ìjọba fi kún ẹ̀kúnwó àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ìgbésẹ̀ tó dáa ni látàrí pé àwọn náà ń béèrè fún ẹ̀kún owó nínú ẹni téèyàn gbọ́dọ̀ fìyà jẹ òun ni olùkọ́ tí ń ṣe kíni tí ń kọ́yàn torí gbogbo àwọn tá à ń sọ yìí náà àwọn títà yìí náà ni wọ́n ṣe kíni àwọn ni wọ́n kọ́ wọn títí tó fi débi tí wọ́n ṣe kíni tí wọ́n ń lọ kí ló wá dé nígbà tí ẹ débi tẹ́ ń lọ tán tí ẹ mọ̀ wá fi ẹ̀tọ́ wọn tẹ́ mọ̀ ṣe kíni tí wọ́n fi ń dùn wọn ní tí wọ́n jà fún yẹn ó dáa lọ́dọ̀ ṣe kíni lọ́dọ̀ tì mí ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kejì ń bẹ̀ ó ní nǹkan tó wọ́n nínú ìlú nísìnyí ẹ̀káwo Nàìjíríà wà yìí ìjọ tá a ti ń provide ráìsì èyí táwọn ń provide kò fẹ́ dáa tó ni gẹ́gẹ́ bí tiwantiwa ìlú òkèèrè àwọn ni wọ́n ti ń ṣe ìtọ́ dáa jù èmi ọba rọ ìjọba wa kí wọ́n dákun sórí tọlọ́run kódà bó ṣe láàrin oṣù kan àbóṣù méjì kí wọ́n bá ṣí bọ́dà kí wọ́n ṣí bọ́dà fún wa kí nǹkan kó ṣe kí ni kó wọlé káàró tu gbogbo wa ẹ wo bọ́dà tí wọ́n ti nísìn látàyè Buhari tó ti lóhun tì kí ni wọ́n tì fún ẹ dákun látijọ́ tó ti wá ti ní.
wọ́n ní wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe ìgbélárugẹ fún ọjà lábẹ́lé ni àwọn tí yóò máa pèsè ọjà lábẹ́lé ká lè máa ra nǹkan tiwa kówó lè máa wà lápò àwọn tó ń ṣe nǹkan jáde lábẹ́lé.
náà ṣé wọ́n ti wá ṣe fún wa ní wọ́n ò ṣe náà wọ́n ò ṣe wọ́n kẹ ẹnu ni wọ́n fi ṣe kí ni ẹnu ni wọ́n fi ń sọ títí dàkókò tá a wà wọn ò ṣe kí ni wọn ò ṣe òun ló fi gbogbo nǹkan tí wọ́n ń kó wọlé tá à ń rà tọkàn wá ń balẹ̀ àìkó wọlé mọ̀ yẹn òun ló jẹ́ kí gbogbo nǹkan ṣe kí ni kó gbẹnu sókè sí. ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kẹta ń bẹ̀ ó ní kí gbogbo àwa tí wọ́n ń ṣe okòwò tí wọ́n ń tà nǹkan olúkálùkù kan ń ta nítorí ni.
afọwọ́ àtọmọdé yín lẹ́nu ọ̀nàrẹ́bù wa ẹ jẹ́ ká sáré gbọ́ ọ̀nàrẹ́bù tó náwó kéde. hello ṣé ń gbọ́ wa ẹni tó ń pè wá o ẹ gbóhùn sókè tẹ́ bá ń gbọ́ wa o. ẹ kú dédé àsìkò yìí. láti ìlú Ẹdẹ ó yá.
ọ̀rọ̀ tẹ́ ẹ ní kápẹ́ pẹ̀lú ìyá ọ̀rọ̀ gidi ni. ẹ̀kúnwó àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ akọ́kọ́ dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ààrẹ wa. wọ́n sọ wípé ní àwọn ọ̀sán tí àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ náà sì fọwọ́ sí. báwo òṣìṣẹ́ wa máa jẹ́ yí pé ní bóyá wọ́n tó máa béèrè lórí ẹ̀kúnwó míì. torí bí wọ́n bá ti ń béèrè lórí ẹ̀kúnwó ẹni nǹkan ó sì máa wọ́n sí ní nǹkan tá à ń rà. pàápàá jùlọ èmi wá rọ ààrẹ wa kí wọ́n ṣe lè fọpo wa kí wọ́n sì sí bọ́dà lẹ̀ kó ń jọ pọ̀ kówó bá mọ níwọ̀nba sọ̀tọ̀mù ẹ wò gbà tí ó rí àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ń gba ọgbà ẹgbẹ̀rún ẹ rí i pé ní tí nǹkan ò sì wọ́n nígbà náà ẹ rí i pé ní owó yẹn ó tó ná. ìgbà ní ìsìn jáde fi ẹ̀kúnwó jáde fi fún ẹ̀ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn ọlọ́jà èmi rọ̀ wọ́n tí wọ́n mọ̀ fowó ọjà wọn torí tẹ́ bá tún fowó lé ọjà owó yóò lè tó àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ náà ẹ̀kú ètò Western State Ẹ̀sìnkò ní
àmì ẹ ṣé gan ni Honourable Taiwo Hassan Elejire látẹ̀dẹ̀ Honourable Adam ẹ máa bọ̀rọ̀ yín lọ ẹ má bínú.
àwọn tí wọ́n ń ta nǹkan ń tó wo olúkálùkù ní ṣe kí ni ń tó wo olúkálùkù ní tà olúkálùkù ló gbówó lé tàrífù ẹ̀ látàrí nǹkan pé nǹkan ṣe kí ni nǹkan wọ́n látòkè gbogbo àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ tá à ń sọ yìí ẹlòmíì lánàá mo gbéṣẹ́ fẹ́ nìkan iṣẹ́ tó yẹ pé tá a bá gbé fún kò ju bí 10,000 naira lọ ó dẹ̀ sọ pé tí n bá ti lè ṣe 20,000 wọn ò ní bá mi ṣe mo tún wá pẹ̀lú míì bẹ́ẹ̀ ogun wọn ti wá ṣe kí ni wọ́n ti ṣe meeting mo tún wá pẹ̀lú míì náà the same thing náà mo ní ẹ dákun ṣé kíní yìí náà ẹ dákun ṣé wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe kíní ẹ̀ sá ó tojú sú mi látàrí pé olúkálùkù ń ṣe nǹkan tó wù ńlá fi abẹ ìjọba abẹ wọn nítorí tọlọ́run torí kò sí nǹkan míì náà ẹ̀bẹ̀ náà láṣìkí ní abẹ̀ wọn tí wọ́n bá pàṣẹ látòkè kódà àṣẹ tí àwọn lọ́balọ́ba tí wọ́n pa yẹn àtúnrẹ̀ tí ń sọ pé ṣé owó ọwọ́ ọba ni mo fi lọ́ra tí wọ́n rà ní. àbó ń lọ ya mi lówó èyí mo mọ bí mo ṣe dààmúrò mi tẹ́nìkan kan wá ń kígbe káàkiri tó ní iye báyìí ní kẹta nígbà tí ò kówó sí wa lápò àṣẹ tí ń sọ yẹn àṣẹ kìíní pé ráìsì tá à ń sọ ẹ nísìn ara ráìsì ní iye báyìí kọ́ wá ní kí n ta ráìsì ní bẹ́ẹ̀ 20 naira kò lè possible. Látàrí pé n táwọn náà bára oníwọ̀nsì ìjọba látàrọ̀ látòkè wọ́n dákun kí wọ́n ṣàánú àwa kíni wọ́n ṣàánú àwa mẹ̀kúnnù kí ìgbésí ayé wa kó lè máa ṣe kíni kó lè máa dáa. Jó ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò Ọlọ́run ní jẹ́ kó bàjẹ́ o.
Àmín 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 ẹ ṣé gan ni torí bóyá ẹ̀yin lẹ́bàá wa dábàá láti sòjókòó lé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò rọ̀ torí àsìkò tí kò wá pamọ́ra. Ẹ ṣeun ẹ̀yàn ń rẹ́bù wa àdúpẹ́ gidigidi fún àsìkò ìrẹsílẹ̀ fún bíbá wa kópa nínú ìjókòó lé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò ní ọjọ́ tòní. Àdúpẹ́ gidigidi o àwọn ọ̀nàrẹ́bù 6 ni wọ́n sọ ìwòye ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ èrò ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ àti ìmọ̀ràn ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀ lórí ọ̀rọ̀ tí a gbé yẹ̀wò lónìí. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ o iná ò ní tán owó yín o àbùdí ni ti olókun àbùdí ni ti ọlọ́sà. Ó yá o ẹ bá wa dábàá kí a sòjókòó lérò ọ̀nàrẹ́bù Abibat Ọmọlójú ẹ ti náwó kè tẹ́lẹ̀ ó yá o.
Mo kí abẹnugan lé o mo kí àwọn ọ̀nàrẹ́bù tó wà níkàlẹ̀ orúkọ tèmi ni ọ̀nàrẹ́bù Abibat Ọmọlójú láti Àgùnbẹ́léwò. Mo dábàá pé ká sòjókòó lè tò nírọ̀.
Ó dáa ẹ ṣé gan-an ni ẹ já mú ẹnìkan nílà àkọ́kọ́ ká mẹ́nìkan nílà kejì ọ̀nàrẹ́bù Adénẹ̀gàn àwọn lọ́kọ́ náwó kè nílà kejì ó yá o.
Orúkọ mi ni ọ̀nàrẹ́bù Pẹ́yẹmí Adénẹ̀gàn mo dábàá mo kéjì àbá kí a sòjókòó.
Láti bo.
Láti Òṣogbo pé ká so ìjókòó yìí ní rọ̀ títí di ọjọ́ mẹ́jọ.
Ẹ ṣé gan-an ni a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo yín a dúpẹ́ fún àsìkò tẹ́ sílẹ̀ a dúpẹ́ fún owó tí ẹ fi gun ọkọ̀ àbí tẹ́ fi gbé nǹkan rìn sẹ́yìn wá bíbí lágbára Ọlọ́run a mọ̀ lọ rí a sì mọ̀ bọ̀ rí lágbára Ọlọ́run àṣírí wo bò àṣírí wo ní tú torí àṣírí ẹ̀kọ́ kan kì í tú lójú ewé a dúpẹ́ gedegede. Mo mọ rírì gbogbo àwọn amójú ẹ̀rọ àwọn ayàwòrán àti gbogbo àwọn ọlọ́wọ́ idán tá a jọ ṣiṣẹ́ lọ́jọ́ tòní gbogbo yín pátápátá ni mo yìn láwo ẹ ṣé púpọ̀. Mo fẹ́ púpọ̀ lọ́wọ́ olóòtú àgbà fún ìjókòó lé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò yìí Fẹ́mi Adéfìlà. Èmi tí mo jẹ́ abẹnugan fún ìjókòó lé ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò ni Right Honourable Adéyẹmí Ọlábọ̀dé. Lẹ́yìn àbá látẹnu Honourable Abibat Ọmọlójú láti Àgùnbẹ́léwò tí Honourable Ọpẹ́yẹmí Adénẹ̀gàn láti ìlú Òṣogbo kéjì àbá náà ní èmi abẹnugan lè so ìjókòó ìlérò títí di ọjọ́ ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀.
Ètò yìí tún ti dé o. Ètò ìgbìmọ̀ àjọrò ló tún gorí afẹ́fẹ́. Ọmọdé dàgbà ẹ̀sùn wọn ní èdè kájọ sọ. Adéyẹmí Ọlábọ̀dé ló sọ wípé ohun abádìjọ́rò igun nígun.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
This is Neil, our 9th orphaned pangolin baby. Neil was born in captivity on the bushmeat table, and I was called. I dashed down there and rescued him. I was the one that removed his umbilical cord, and we've been feeding him on special formula. He's about 4 months old now. Neil, does that taste like food? How many people in the world have had their ear nuzzled by a pangolin? I feel lucky and I feel special. From when I was a very young child, I have always been interested in animals. So it wasn't very surprising that I became a veterinarian because I wanted to help animals. Also, I'm a wildlife conservationist. I rescue wildlife, rehabilitate, and release back to nature. And then in the process of growing up, I have come to realize that we have this very, very horrific attitude to the animals around us. Every animal is bushmeat. So instead of complaining about the situation, I wanted to try to cause a difference. And what better place to go to see these victims of the wildlife trade than the bushmeat market? The first time I visited the bushmeat market, nothing prepared me for what I saw. Table full of animals, different species that I didn't know we had in Nigeria, species that I had not seen alive. To see them dead on the table, it was a horrible experience, and I would always remember it till today. It breaks me every time seeing them like this and the horrible way they died. This guy is just beginning to start his life. He has a long way to go. In going to the bushmeat market, I realized that you see some live animals that can't be rescued. When I started, I did not discriminate. Any animal in need, I get. But along the line, in one of my visits, I came across a strange creature. From the description of it, I quickly checked online and, whoa, pangolins. You mean we have pangolins here in Nigeria? I didn't know. The day I saw my first pangolin, I knew I was sold. And then by the time I got to know their status as threatened with extinction, I knew that something would have to be done to ensure that these lovely creatures do not go extinct in my time. Once you see a pangolin and you look into the eyes of a pangolin, you are caught up in pangolins. So how do you look into these eyes and turn your back on him? A lot of people do not know about pangolins, but it is the most widely traded mammal. Because of the interest in the pangolin for their scales, you have hunters that go into the bush exclusively for pangolins, to look for pangolins. So right now on the bushmeat table, you get average of 7, 9 pangolins every day. And that's what you see on the table. They are traded openly despite their CITES 1 protection level. The law enforcement do not even know about it, and this thing continues unabated. Convincing the bushmeat sellers, the hunters, the traders to let go is not a very easy thing, because once they have this animal, all they think of is money. Sadly, once in a while, it comes to that, especially when I see an animal and I say, look, I am going with this animal, I do whatever it takes. Okay, so adult female, 1.784. Adult male, about a year old. 1 inch gash on the right side of the head. One thing I found about the pangolin is a paucity of information. Very little on the white-bellied pangolin that we have here in Nigeria. So it has had to be more like learning on the job, trial by error. It's been very, very traumatic. I have come to learn that they don't do very well in captivity. When you get them, you rehabilitate, rehydrate, but you want to release as soon as possible. Lufasi is a protected park, and they have graciously granted me space. So what I did was to fence a portion of nature with the trees, anthills, good feeding sites for pangolins. So what we do is, after rescue or rehabilitation in the hospital, we bring to the rehab center and then we release them there. And it's actually the first of its kind in West Africa. And we're very proud to be at the forefront of pangolin rescue and rehabilitation in West Africa. Now, Sharon, I want to ask you something. What is the pangolin covered with?
Pangolins are covered with scales.
Yes.
And the scales are like the fingernails in our hands.
Some people believe that when they eat the scales, it will heal them and get them well. Do you think it makes sense?
No.
If somebody is sick and they eat the fingernails, do you think they'll get well?
No.
Why? It doesn't make sense, right?
Yes.
The most exciting thing for me in my rescue work is the point of release. It is almost spiritual for me. You get this heightened sense of accomplishment. You have assisted nature. You have taken something that was supposed to die due to the destructive activities of man, and you have successfully released back into nature. I might not be able to save all the animals in the world, but for this animal that I have saved and released back to the wild, it's the world to the animal. There's a tradition, a culture in Nigeria that refers to pangolins as idiots. They are not idiots. If only people knew how wise these guys are. One of the challenges is ignorance. People have the wrong information, misinformation. And what I have come to do is education. If we don't take care of these guys and they go extinct, the ant population is going to explode. One very, very interesting part of my work is what I'll call the pangolin orphanage. Lots of these pangolins, the females, they give birth in captivity. And at this point, they are usually very stressed, very weak. They usually don't make it. But these babies that are born, they are practically useless to the bushmeat sellers. So I have come to an arrangement with them. Whenever they have a newborn, they call me. Their reproduction rate is very, very slow. You get one pangolin pup being born every 18 months. The rate of removal is way higher than the rate of replacement. We have a very short window to fight this decline of pangolins. If we do not conserve our natural resources, if we do not save these animals around us, it's humanity that will suffer. When you save these animals, you're actually saving humanity. If we kill off all these animals, it will just be you and I looking at our ugly faces. It's not palatable.
Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Hello and welcome. I must also say good afternoon to you, the viewer at home, and welcome to Pertinent Questions, our program, 45 minutes of engagement. On this program, we engage our guests as to the reality, the trending, the circumstances we find ourselves in. Yes, currently in Nigeria, there is a trending issue in our polity that has been triggered off, I should say, by the Supreme Court decision, or better still, the Supreme Court's interpretation of the law, which now gives final, or rather financial autonomy to the states at the federating unit of the states as the federating unit of the Nigerian nation state. Elections are now being conducted hurriedly, you may want to put it, because some are put in place in just less than 2 months, by many of the states to meet qualifying for the Supreme Court new norm. Before now, and for quite a long time, local government elections appeared to almost always favor the controlling political party at the state level that is in charge. A sitting governor as an emperor in quotes, will commandeer or appears to commandeer, and then everybody holds the line. And if they were from the opposition party, they are seen as being antagonistic to the central government. This challenge has made the National Assembly, particularly the Senate, to desire a new election management body to conduct local government elections in the country. The question is, will it be for INEC? They have not said so. Will it be for a completely different electoral body? It is still in the cooking. But all that the Senate is looking for is a national body that will be holding elections for local government. And this is what we are here this afternoon to discuss in part. It's a big background we have given today as to how politicians or political parties in their various federating units tend to lord it over and then win and win as if no opposition exists in the state. Therefore, for what we have been seeing, it calls for some measure of civic education on our part. So this afternoon, I've brought in a man who knows his onions, a man who more than 35 years has belonged to a system that conducts election. A man who in the last 18 years after his retirement has not retired, but continued to act and engage in electoral matters. My guest is a distinguished scholar himself, a former university teacher who became an INEC director before he retired some 18 years ago. I speak of a man I can easily call a consultant in the electoral process. Dr. Jimoh Akani Agboola is my guest today on the program. Doctor, you are most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Let me formally welcome you.
For the elaborate introduction.
Yes, you deserve it because I had not even finished. Before he retired, he was the director of the INEC Electoral Institute. Today, if you want to count 1, 2, 3 Nigerians who are professional, who are real consultants in the industry of electioneering or election, the conduct of election, the name Jimoh Agboola will be one of the 3. That's the man I have the opportunity to welcome into the studio and to say, yes, it's a big catch. And I'm happy to be here to fire you questions. I am Adetoye Shitu Alamu, the host for this program, and we are discussing the planned electoral reforms that the Senate is trying to bring about as it concerns local government elections. Dr. Agboola, what is an election management body?
Oh, it's a very simple one. An election management body is that which is legally saddled with the conduct of election, but it has other duties as provided in the law. Usually, apart from conducting election, they undertake voter or civic education. They can engage in referendum if there's a need. But the major work is to see is to manage the electoral process and the content of electoral process. And an electoral management body can be at the national level, like you have INEC. It can be at the state level, like you have OCEC. In Nigeria, we have two main electoral bodies, the Independent National Electoral Commission and the State Independent Electoral Commission, at least as provided by the Nigerian Constitution today.
Can we have a third tier? A third tier for local government election?
The 1999 Constitution, as amended, does not make provision for a third tier.
Okay, but it could be done.
It could be done. Okay. It could be challenged.
Right.
It could be upturned, as the case may be.
Yes. We all hanker after free, fair, credible election. As a consultant, as a man who has seen everything you must see in that industry, what factors can lead an electoral body to be seen to have held a very free, credible, and fair election?
Oh, it's very easy. We talk of many variables, many factors. The very first one is independence. And it's just not labeling the electoral body with the word independence, but ensuring that they are completely independent from the control of the governor, the president, or the chairman of the local government, as the case may be. But at the very fabric of this independence is financial independence. If an electoral body has to go cap in hand to the president or to the governor, that independence is just a name. And when that happens, the electoral body cannot provide magic. For now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is completely independent. Where we have the problem is the State Independent Electoral Commission. That is why they are being labeled as being unable to conduct elections freely and fairly. But I disagree with that. I have defined independence as having basic financial independence. If any electoral body has that, it should be able to conduct viable election, credible election. But that's not the only variable. Then you have officials it will appoint to conduct election, whether permanent or ad hoc. These officials have to be exposed to a lot of training. That was why INEC in about 2006 before 2006, established the Electoral Institute to take care of the professionalization of staff. If those who will conduct the election are not well trained, this will create trouble. That is why some people say those who vote are not the problem, but those who count the votes. Those who count the votes are the permanent and ad hoc staff and who deal with the election. The other thing is the basic legal framework for the conduct of election. If the basic framework is not there, you can't have a credible, a free, or a fair election. And usually, the Constitution is a basic legal framework. Electoral Act is a basic legal framework. If at the state level, with a State Independent Electoral Commission, laws that are made in the Assembly, judicial pronouncements, all of these rules and regulations, ethics, which are dished out by various electoral management bodies, are a basic legal framework which determines the success or failure of an election. There are other things. Exposure of the voters, of the populace, to the basic rules, to their rules. If you don't tell me how to vote, and I don't vote correctly, I'm merely wasting my time. So all of this the accumulation of all of this will form the basis where you can say an election management body has conducted a credible, a viable, or an election that is acceptable to the generality of the public, or even that is acceptable in terms of international-based practices. There are various variables, some of which I have outlined.
Why do you, or why are elections said to be in cycle?
Okay, election is not an event. That is the mistake most of us make. Election is a series of actions and activities which you do before the election, which you do during the election, and which you do after the election. That is why it is thought of as a circle. What you do before election, what you do during election, what you do after election. For example, before election, you do training, you do publicity, you prepare the legal framework, and then you go on to the election period. During the election period, you provide notice of election. You train those who execute the election, and then you carry out the election. After the election, you give results. Those who will challenge, even if you issue a certificate of return, those who will challenge the election have the right to. So it's a circle. Once an election ends, the process of another one starts. That is why it is either an election process or an electoral process or an election or an electoral cycle. It goes on and on, cyclical.
Yes, you've been around for quite some time on this as a member of an electoral management body. Kindly walk us through the history of state independent electoral commission. We had a time when it was run by the center, or it has always been from the state?
Thank you very much. We may not have time today to go through the whole process. I will merely summarize, because the conduct of election at the state level is closely tied to the local government reform. And these are in 7 or 6 stages. Stage 1, before colonial government, where you have various empires and the like. Then you have the colonial period, and then, but let's pick it from 1976. The 1976 local government reform is the watershed that actually transformed, radical transformation of the electoral system at the local government level. During the period of our great Baba Obasanjo, there was the local government reform. And by 1979, you had the Constitution, which created SEC, State Electoral Commission. But like I have written and said on many occasions, governors did not allow this to operate. They preferred caretaker committees and the like. So by the 1999 Constitution, state independent electoral commissions were created. Again, this commission did not. This commission did not operate effectively, in the sense that